Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 312 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on September the 6th, 2021. As always, my name is Andrew. I will be your political pundit. Joining me tonight, we have Gavin, Jeff, Alan, and Brian.
We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. A version of this show is available on Stitcher and at iTunes. Links in the show notes and links in the show notes.
And we need your help to support the Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode and show that you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping. I would think it's supposed to be insurance, but it says theft. But either way, $19.99 plus shipping, and we'll send you a t-shirt. Visit the CanadianPatriotPodcast.com home link and follow the link on the right.
Right on. Pierre was here. Pierre disappeared. Pierre has t-shirts ready to go. So hopefully by the time I have the backlog of podcasts edited, the t-shirts will be up on the website and people can buy them and stop sending me hate mail asking for their damn t-shirts.
Yeah, you'll have to send hate mail asking for other things.
Yeah, I mean, it just is going to change what the problem is. That's all.
But don't stop sending your hate mail. It's the best.
No, it fuels us.
Well, since I'm not allowed on social media anymore, I have to receive my hate messages via email or in person.
Why don't you make one day of the year where everybody can meet you at a certain location, and we'll all tell you what we think about you.
I mean,
so it's like,
isn't that
it's
the
like
premise of Festivus?
Yeah.
Yeah, the airing of grievances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You just tell us where you're going to be on that day, and we'll all be there.
Monday nights, 9:00 Eastern on YouTube. Come and get some.
No, it's got to be one day.
All right, time for my favorite segment. Let's do What Are We Drinking? This, at least according to my legal counsel, is considered plausible deniability in case we say anything on the strictly entertainment podcasts that we do.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, I don't think he was a real lawyer, but neither here nor there. So we'll go anti-clockwise on my screen. We'll start with Gavin. Gavin, what are you drinking, and why does it taste like New Brunswick?
Well, I'm coming at you live from the province of New Brunswick. I'm on the road for work, so I will be drinking Alpine Lager since 1937.
Yeah, I've seen those beers show up at the beer store recently, and I just haven't been adventurous enough to try one. So
it's not bad.
If it's been sitting since 1939, you may not want to be too adventurous.
No, it's more bang for your buck that way.
Yeah.
True.
That's what we used to drink.
Might make you go blind, though.
In the bush in New Brunswick when it was the cheapest, most available thing.
I got nothing else about that. I feel like I should pick on it somehow, but I'm not gonna, because I mean,
it's okay. This is what was available at the hotel. It's Labor Day. Everything was closed. This was all I could get.
It's wet, and it's beer.
It is beer.
Yeah.
So it could certainly be worse.
Yeah.
Jeff, are you drinking? Do you drink?
I do. I have yes, it's in a can, but it's vodka and ginger ale.
Nice.
All right. I'll take it. Alan.
On my left side, I have my hydration station with White Freeze BioSteel electrolyte powder. And on my right, I have the exact opposite of good beer, and I have a Michelob Ultra.
Electrolytes. It's what plants crave.
Yeah.
Why are you drinking electrolyte juice?
because I
But
was
he's a
working
plant,
outside
obviously.
today, and it's hot. And I think you're thinking of chlorophyll. Electrolytes are essential nutrients for
No.
us people.
Mountain Dew Camacho said electrolytes is what plants crave.
Wasn't there a movie too that the people in the movie were like feeding the water?
Yeah, the president was Terry Crews, and
Yeah.
the character's name was like Herbert Mountain Dew Camacho or something to
Yeah,
that
what's the
effect.
name of that movie?
Yeah.
Idiocracy.
Yeah. Their favorite show was called like Nutted or something. Everybody got kicked. Like, the whole show was about people getting hit in the balls.
Getting kicked in the nuts. That's right. Yes. That's the.
Sorry, we're getting off the rails here. Sorry.
No, that's
No,
just going to get worse.
yeah. I mean, if that's not a comment on society, I don't know what is.
Well, I mean, on that note, not that I intended it to go this way, but Idiocracy was really meant more as a comedy than a prediction for what was going to happen. But here we are.
Well, 1984 wasn't supposed to be a manual either, but here we are.
Here we are. Right on down that memory hole. Brian, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking some Old Milwaukee, the red can.
Dust
All right.
off the old mill.
Yep.
I'm going to try and hold this up to the camera. It will key out, but I have to thank Brian. He got me the only good thing in Barrie, beer from Flying Monkeys Brewery. I have Sparkle Puff, the Galaxy Starfighter Defender of the Universe extra strong beer, 10.2%. It tastes
They even
kind
need
of
to
like
add
peaches.
that 0.2 on the end. Like, it just seems like,
Right. It's that extra 2%, the 0.2% that really gets you.
yeah.
Hey, listen, if a quarter of an inch can keep me out of jail, 0.2% is worth it.
I mean, I'm not sure where you're going with that, but fair enough. Pierre looks like he's here.
Gun barrel sizes.
Pierre, what
Oh,
are
I thought
you?
it was you were wearing
oh.
short shorts and that quarter of an inch.
I
shortness
also
kept
misunderstood
you-
what we were measuring. My
Yeah.
mistake.
You're all a bunch of sick degenerates.
I mean, yes, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
No, it's not a bad thing. Just a general notation.
Oh, that was good.
Pierre, welcome back. What are you drinking, buddy?
40 Creek and Pepsi. Hopefully my internet doesn't take a fritz tonight. Hopefully they're done with all those updates at CSIS and RCMP for the night.
Well, I would like to thank the government for tuning in, whether they're part of the RCMP, CSIS, your local law enforcement agency, or your member of parliament. Welcome to the show. Chris is making fun of my beer. Apparently, my beer is a typo. Whatever, that's fine. You'll get a T-shirt when you get a T-shirt, bud.
It may or
Let's
may not
do-
have
Bottom of the list.
weird beer in with it. Yeah.
I can't afford to give people beer with T-shirts. Do you know how much it would cost to ship a beer?
Yeah, it is kind of expensive.
Fragile sticker has to go on special. Like, can't put it in an envelope. It'd be very expensive. Let's talk about the Patriot Challenge, though, especially for the people that are. I don't think, Jeff, I don't think you've been on with us before. And Alan, it's been quite a long time since we've seen you on. We're asking people to do 5 things, and I'd like you to provide examples from your own lives. 5 things that you've done to be a better person. Exercise for 45 minutes, practice a skill for 10, read a book for 15 minutes, drink 2 liters of water. Just water by itself, not water mixed with anything, not coffee, not beer, not
Yeah, you're not
vodka,
a
soda.
plant. You don't need electrolytes, just water.
And complete 1 task to improve your life. And have you done any of those things? Let's go with today. I'd accept this week, though.
Well, I spent the last 3 days shoveling soil as part of my construction project, so I consider that at least 45 minutes of exercise. Today was about 3 hours. This is not including the electrolyte juice. This is approximately 1.5 liters of water today. I've definitely read
All
for
right.
at least 15 minutes. Improving my life. I'm making my garage and backyard better, so I consider those 2 things kind of intertwined. And I don't think that shoveling is a specific skill, but I'm reading, so that's a skill.
All right. So I feel like Alan was going for overachiever status until he petered out at the end.
Yeah.
How'd you make
good-
out,
good
Jess?
job.
Did you achieve Patriot status today?
Not quite, but pretty close. I was down at my mom. She has a trailer at a campsite down towards London Way, and a whole bunch of us got together and decided to play about 4.5 hours of beach volleyball today. So I got my exercise. I most definitely drank more than 2 liters of water, probably closer to 5. I don't know if you could say that's practically playing volleyball is practicing a skill, but if it gets me points, I'll take it. And but no, I did not read a book. So
I also
Oh,
lit a
that's
fire
all
today.
right.
That was a skill. It didn't take me 10 minutes, but I practiced a skill.
Ah,
I will say this though, that you guys are going to trigger some of our listeners that have some problems with the excessive amounts of water that we drink.
yeah. Sorry, Emily.
I can debate this subjectively for hours.
So, some people need to make more trips to the washroom than others. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's,
Check out
Section
our
74
recent
challenges are
hydration
Section 74 challenges are still a thing. If you want to get involved, go send them money. Go in the GoFundMe, get the details. The reason that we're all here tonight, aside from drinking and talking crap, mostly it's those two things. Election coverage, because as you may be aware, we're 14 days from an election.
What?
Hadn't noticed it.
The signs
And
usually are the
possibly
giveaway.
14 days and 18 months away from another election.
A very strong possibility. I guess that bears mention. Do you want to expand there, Gavin?
The shiniest of ponies has come out and threatened that if he does not get a majority, but only gets a minority, that we could be back to the polls again in 18 months, because somehow he feels that unless he gets a majority, he won't be able to completely financially cripple. I mean, get what he wants. I mean, succeed in his platform promises
All the same.
of bankrupting the nation.
Can I ask,
So-
at what point has he ever been successful in any of his platform promises?
Well, all the terrible
do you-
ones.
Do you count giving We Charity a lot of money?
Not in his platform?
No, I suppose not. They did promise transparent government, and they no. Clean water for Indians. No, that's
that
not.
electoral reform.
Oh, you first past the post, but we're still
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah,
The budget would balance itself.
So, yeah.
$300 billion
definitely-
deficit this year. So
We're definitely 2 elections past the last first past the post election that you.
Women were safe in his workplace.
Given all of those factors, what's another 18 months going to do?
Well,
What's the
hopefully,
first rule when you're
hopefully
not-
it's not.
digging?
He'll just lose. Hopefully, it all backfires in his face and he loses this election.
According to the latest polls, that's a very real possibility.
well,
I saw a video of him getting pelted by rocks today.
I do want to.
Oh, really?
Really?
That's funny.
Yeah.
We should talk more about that. I do have a question before we move on, though, because the 18-month thing is interesting to me, because we talked about this about 18 months ago. Minority governments don't typically last 2 years in this country. The last election was in 2019, the fall of 2019.
Yeah.
So we managed to go almost 2 years.
Yes, but a lot of that was with a suspended parliament because it was unsafe to sneeze on other people.
Well, I mean, it's still unsafe to sneeze on other people.
But you're
There
going
is a
to
global
Because he was
pandemic.
having too much fun at the cottage.
Is that a
It's
code
really
word for
hard
what
to-
Sophie and Idris were up to, or?
It's really hard
Yeah.
to suspend or to trigger an election when you don't table a budget and you don't have votes on things because there's no.
Well,
parliament.
I'm surprised about that, because if we go back to like last summer, pre-COVID, I guess last spring pre-COVID, everything was a no confidence vote according to the Liberals, because like the lack of budget, like everything they were passing was a no confidence vote. If we don't vote on this, it's a no confidence vote. It's like that's not how that's meant to work, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, because his idea, I believe at that time, was he wanted somebody else to trigger the election so he could lay the blame on them and say it was their fault that you're in this election. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't want an election. And
Yeah.
Oh, Pierre's better half points out that the legalization of cannabis was a promise that was made, and
That was huge.
Okay, I can't really argue with that one. Even a broken
But
clock is right
I'm
twice a
gonna
day.
I'm gonna argue with
Yeah.
that one because if cannabis was legal, I could grow whatever I wanted and smoke whatever I wanted. I
So-
don't participate in the devil's lettuce, but I am a bit of a horticulturalist because I think it would be really funny to grow the greatest buds ever seen, take them, get blue ribbons put on them at the local fair, and then light them on fire. And I don't mean to smoke them. I mean like with a
Just burn it in
flamethrower
front
in
of
my
everyone?
backyard. Yeah.
Can you
'Cause I
invite
think
me
that would
over
be
for
funny.
Invite me
And
over
currently-
for that day.
Currently, what is stopping you from doing that?
My wife.
And as much as I like to blame Trudeau for everything, how is that Trudeau's fault?
So
because
it wasn't
you're-
necessarily, it was legalized to a certain extent, but I mean, I would even argue that it was more, not so much legalized as in it was regulated.
The
Yeah, it's more
government managed to
regulated.
create a new monopoly where they're
Yeah.
the sole distributor, provider, grower, and so on.
But even
Yeah.
then, that was left to the provinces, so he didn't even really do that. He just
I'd
said,
also-
"We're not going to arrest you." for
I'd
it
also
unless you do
argue
too
that
much."
it probably would have just got legalized anyway, regardless who came
Absolutely.
into power.
100%.
I think that's probably the case,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm okay. Oh, sorry. One moment. Because of the marijuana, dear.
You need more
Anyway,
time?
Yes, if
What was
Andrew was finally able to fulfill his dreams of being a marijuana farmer, he would finally know how many joints are in a bushel.
10
But alas,
pounds.
he will never find out.
well, so I again, as an avid horticulturalist, my understanding from having read material about this is that the plant needs to exceed 2 meters in height to successfully bear buds, and it is not kosher, at least in the province in which I reside, to have more than 4 plants, and none of those 4 plants may exceed 2 meters in height. So my marijuana will not be winning any blue ribbons anytime soon.
You could just put a blue ribbon on it and save the whole competition part.
Yeah, but he's not a Scotsman in a kilt, so I think he can do that.
But you see, I am.
So just go to the dollar store, buy really, really small blue ribbon.
That's
tie it
my.
around it,
That's
and then z-
the
and then
same thing I
zoom
do
in
with a
the
kilt.
camera.
Yeah.
Zoom in
Literally
with
the
camera and make
same.
it look-
The smaller
make it
the
look
ribbon, the
cute.
bigger the prize looks, right?
Exactly. For anyone that doesn't get that reference, you'll have to ask Gavin to send you a link to the song. All right.
Yeah.
Don't know where you've been, me lad, but I see you one for prize.
That's the one.
Huh.
What else were we talking about before I got distracted by marijuana?
The general incompetence of the Trudeau government.
Well, I mean, yes, but I thought we had something specific we were talking about.
Oh, we were talking
The
about-
length of time. The length of time the government lasts.
Yeah.
So the last election was October of 2019, right? The end of October 2019. So we've managed to go almost 2 years, including a global alleged pandemic, which
Could be up for debate.
worst zombie apocalypse ever.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
I still have all my rounds. Horrible.
Not a single zombie.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know if you've been to any of those rallies lately.
I mean, I guess it depends on which rally. I saw some stuff going on. Cambridge, Welland, and somewhere else all had excellent social media coverage of people shouting "fuck Trudeau" and other exciting slogans like that, and the RCMP close protection people being like, "We're going to stand here in plate carriers and look really serious, guys. Guys, look really serious in your plate carrier."
Yeah. My favorite, like I do enjoy a good fuck Trudeau, but my favorite of all the ones I've heard so far is just the chanting over and over piece of shit.
That's the one where they were like chasing him through the neighborhood, right?
I think it's happened in a few, but yeah, when they're chasing through the neighborhood chanting piece of shit at him, it's quite good.
I wanted
And I did see I guess he was just in London, and
Yeah,
somebody
they just
pelted
did
him
the
with
Southern
rocks in
Ontario.
London.
I mean,
He was in
that's
Vaughan, but I
assault,
don't know.
kinda.
I seen the thing today, but I don't know if it was today or yesterday. And I guess, like you said, they surrounded his bus and they were all kind of, the police were all standing around going, what do we do? And they just surrounded the bus and, yep, basically chanted fuck you and piece of shit and yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
I wish I was there.
I mean, and he
pros
like
and
he
cons.
cries to the media about it all, right? Like he's the most like criticized and it's like, well, maybe if you didn't suck so much, bud, like people wouldn't be criticizing you so much.
Maybe if you followed through, we should go and look and see if the website still exists. But there used to be like the Trudeau meter that told us
Yeah.
whether or not he was meeting his election promises or not. We should go and look and see if that still exists, because I'm way too lazy to keep track of all of the things that he's promised to do and failed to deliver on. I would be curious to know over the last 2 elections what he has actually promised versus what he's actually delivered.
Well, the CCFR is launching their pamphlet program there. I heard that they have pamphlets that they're going to be handing out to gun stores to give out to people. And basically in the pamphlet is basically what you were just talking about, all the failures of the Trudeau government.
And I mean, okay, so it's probably worth getting into this because I expect that I may end up being contrary for the sake of entertainment on the show, but I also am just sort of that way to begin with.
Yeah.
Are you going to say that you hope those pamphlets don't have anything about the conservative platform in it?
I mean, I wasn't even getting into that. I would not even get into the conservative thing, but like the just pick on Justin thing, which is a favorite pastime of mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we could just get gun owners to vote as a block, there's 2.5 million licensed firearm owners in this country. We are more than 10% of the voting population in this country. But we can't even all vote as a block because we're fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Now don't all go and vote for the block. Go and vote as a block.
But that's what if we could get 2.5 million people to vote in a coordinated fashion, we would have like serious political power as an organization is maybe not the right word for it, because we don't act as we don't even act as a single organization because we don't have a grand unifying organization for gun owners, because like the vast majority of the 2.5 million gun owners don't belong to any organization.
Well, it'd be great, but unfortunately, I know some gun owners that voted Liberal, and I've also heard some other gun owners say things like, "Well, do we even need assault rifles?"
Yes.
And it's like they're just regurgitating other things they've heard throughout the media. But and I mean, it's so easy and cliche to say, but what do you think's next if they take away the ARs and all the semis and the handguns and everything?
Well, I mean, so the order has been machine guns, converted machine guns, scary semi-automatic rifles. Then it'll be semi-automatic rifles, handguns, certain kinds of shotguns. 22
anything repeating, like the lever gun will be too dangerous because it's too fast.
And we've seen that in Australia. They're like, well, you guys can have manual action guns. Oh, but not those Alder shotguns, because those lever shotguns are too dangerous. They're very fast.
Yeah.
But well, it'd be the same thing here.
I mean, if you can't even mow down a bunch of emus with machine guns, why do you even have machine guns?
Yeah, I mean, Australia is literally the only country to have lost a war to emus.
But my argument to those FUDs, for lack of better words, would be, well, why wouldn't you just want the options? Like, why wouldn't you?
Well, but so this is part of the problem with the FUDs, and many people know this. I've mentioned on the show before. I sit on the board of a local gun club. I have for about 10 years. This is the time of year where I get inquiries from the gun owning public to come to my range and sight in their deer rifles, and I usually ignore them, but occasionally they trigger me in a certain way with their microaggressions where I tell them to fuck right off.
Well, they're generally the most dangerous.
If we could get the gun owning community to vote as a block, we would have greater than 10% of the eligible voting population in this country voting for whoever we wanted to. And we can't manage that. We cannot, as gun owners, vote in our own best interest. And before this election, I knew what my own best interest was, and it was begrudgingly to punch the conservative box. In this election, I'm not sure about that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty sure about it up until yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you guys are talking about, and that shook me a bit too. But after thinking and reevaluating and thinking about the Liberal platform, I really still believe 100% that it's the best way to go right now.
Well, I am curious about that. I'm hoping that we can spend a little bit of time over the next, say, 45 minutes or so talking through the various policy platforms. I don't think it's worth investigating the Bloc because that's only Quebec. And je ne parle français and so on. I know Pierre parlays much better than I do, but I don't imagine we have a large French listenership.
Apologies to all of the people in Quebec that do listen. We miss you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, but where is Etienne when you need him?
Yeah, it's
Probably
out
driving his
clubbing a
truck
seal.
or clubbing a seal. It's a strong possibility. If you are looking for a social club to join, I do strongly recommend Etienne's Seal Clubbing Club.
Yeah.
No, is it Clubbing Seals Clubbing Club, or do they just like lie there and they don't dance and do ecstasy?
gotta join
It's
to
less
find out.
Less clubbing
It's
and more clubbing?
less Pulse
Yeah.
nightclub, more Indigenous hunting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I did find on the Polymeter website a promise tracker of the Trudeau government from the 42nd and 43rd Parliaments of Canada. Now, disclaimer, this is funded in partnership with the government of Quebec. So I have not done any further investigating other than what this particular website is telling me. But of 696 promises since December 3rd, 2015, of 696 promises, apparently he has kept 45%, broken 27%, partially kept 27%, and have none in progress.
What's partially kept?
Partially kept.
That sounds like he's failed.
As an example, 1.01.01, we will maintain current national defense spending levels, including current planned increases, was published in December 2015. Partially kept, the budgetary expenditures by standard object shows that it probably wasn't kept. It wasn't increased as it should have been.
So
Without
that sounds
digging
like
too
he
deep into it.
hasn't.
So he didn't cut anything, but he didn't increase it as much as the planned increase would have been.
Yeah, so that sounds like a broken promise.
It sounds like a broken promise. I think they're splitting hairs by saying it's partially kept.
Stop spreading
Again-
fake news, Alan.
Again, with full disclaimer, this is funded in part by the Society of Research and Culture Society of the Government of Quebec. So take that as a potential bias.
See, I just want to know, was that verified by the CBC to be adequate?
Well, we should talk about that. We should talk about that.
Says it must be true. The CBC.
No.
Never
If the
screws
CBC
up.
says it, it means that they're getting paid.
Although I will say I gained respect for one of their particular reporters the other day when Trudeau was in Toronto and Mississauga, and that particular CBC reporter asked him where we were, like, what special permission did you get because there are more than 50 of us in the room, etc. He didn't answer the question, of course, because that's what most politicians do. And then that reporter followed him up by saying, "You didn't answer my question. Did you get special permission to have more than 50 of us in this room?" And again, he just kited the question. So I genuinely appreciate, like, credit where it's due. That particular reporter, who happens to work for the CBC, did an excellent job of trying to actually get an answer out of it.
Who is probably now unemployed.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Well, shall we touch on the fact checking piece, because that irked me in a way that I didn't even expect. The CBC has been named the official fact checker for Facebook. This is on, yes, it's on the Rebel, and no, I'm not really a fan of Ezra Levant, but it's also on the official Facebook policy page. It's the URL. It must be hard to get a good URL these days. Facebook Canadian Election Integrity.com.
Well, at least they've got the word integrity there. Therefore it must be true.
Yeah, you know what? You know
The
what-
Democratic
when they put that
People's
in.
Republic of Korea also gets to vote.
That's so. I liken the CBC being a fact checker for the Canadian government during an election to Iran being on the UN Human Rights Council. It's about as effective for about the same reasons. How could you possibly have an objective
How many
check with-
hundreds of millions of dollars of government funding does the CPC get, and how many hundreds of millions of dollars of funding have they received this year in increase from the Trudeau government?
all
And
of
how
it?
much of that had to go to Facebook to become their official fact checker?
I'm not even that part, but just like there is obviously
I heard a
implicit
number floating
biases.
around of 600 million went to the CBC.
And when did Facebook become the place where you get facts?
Like
Well,
5 years
I mean, that
Really
is a
that's
good
been for a
question.
long time, just very specifically because people.
When I read that, I was like, wait, who? Facebook?
The average person is too lazy to read beyond the headline. So if they're scrolling Facebook, they see something, they're going to take it as true.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not even that they go to Facebook for facts. It's that everyone is on Facebook all of the time because we're all terrible people, and people
No.
post.
You're on
links to-
terrible. You're terrible people. I have been banned from Facebook, and I will not be returning.
That is
So
a
people-
goal to which I aspire.
You don't even have the option, so you're sitting over there on your soapbox.
Yeah,
taking-
people.
You know
people
what?
Post stories.
I accept this. Facebook doesn't want me, and I don't want them. We are good with this relationship, lack thereof.
We'll see if that door opens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
there'll be a Remington something coming on there.
People
Wow.
people post onto the book of the faces different links from different sources.
Yeah.
Facebook feels it's their responsibility to vet these sources.
So you're saying Facebook
Sorry.
is a broadcaster and should be regulated as such?
I mean, I think that sounds fair to me.
I like where this is going. If I ever get the chance to run the government, we're treating them in the same way as terrestrial media, but the odds of me getting to run the government are pretty slim.
I would suck.
We need
though.
your
That's the
help.
thing you can-
To
like,
get
that was the
Andrew
greatest
for
thing
Prime
about the
Minister.
internet. You don't have that. It was always great when the internet first came out. You can go to the internet. It was like the Wild West because, it's like the FCC wasn't involved. Anybody can just say whatever the hell they want. And like, if that kind of stuff starts happening, what you're talking about, Andrew, then it's like, where do we go? We got to build a whole new area to speak
As a-
freely.
I don't.
As a quick
okay.
aside, Parler made it back onto the internet today, but
Well,
only
that's
on their
great.
web
I'm
service one.
still not going
the
to
apps
Parler.
for your phones.
Still not going there, but I don't know. I mean, more what Brian was saying. If we're going to treat the internet as a commodity or as a more like terrestrial media, I'm okay with that because we're subsidizing it and paying for it. So if we want to treat it the same way that we treat like a telco, where like they don't get a choice, I could be a Nazi and Bell Telephone still has to give me a home telephone because the government paid for the copper line to my house from the local, like the local central office, the CO for my neighborhood. There's a line to my house. If I pay Bell their $50 a month or whatever, there is nothing they can do to stop me from having a telephone. They are legally required to provide that service to me. I would be okay if we treated things like Facebook the same way, where if they're going to be like a media company,
Okay, I
then
see where
like
you're coming from.
they have to, it's the same as a telco.
Yeah,
They
okay.
have to give me an account
Like,
unless I do something that like is an actual crime. Like, okay, so you post like child pornography. I think we all agree that like A, you hang in the public square, but B, you don't get a Facebook account anymore.
Yeah, or even
That's
if you do
reasonable.
something violent on your Facebook account, like you punch somebody or you do something like
Sure,
that.
yeah, and again, like if you break actual laws,
Yeah.
then you don't get to participate in that segment of society anymore.
It's not some arbitrational fucking thing where somebody decides
But,
what
like-
they don't like what you're saying, so they kick you off of it.
And that's the thing. Facebook, Instagram, Parler, what have you. Either you are a media company and you're curating the content, and you're a media company and you need to be treated like a media company, or you're a platform and it's the public square. And I think, was it Brian that you said it was like the Wild West and then the internet started?
Yeah.
Then everybody gets an account and I don't have to use my real name and I can say whatever I want to say as long as I'm not committing actual crimes.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I go on Facebook and I make threats against a certain politician with really good hair, then okay, yeah, like I expect to be investigated by, the RCMP counterterrorism people.
Yeah, but
right?
Why would you be making threats against Stephen Harper?
I said good hair, but yes.
That you telling me that Lego style wasn't awesome? That was amazing.
Man, Captain,
You can set your watch by that.
How much easier is it when you can just get up in the morning, put on the hair that you want, and not have to think about it? It's like
I miss having hair, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Right, Pierre? It's a good thing, right?
buddy.
Yeah.
We got enough hair to go around the whole panel.
Well, fair enough. If I take my t-shirt off, it looks like I'm wearing a sweater, but neither here nor
Throw it in the
there.
wrong spot. Eh?
We're not comparing body parts here.
Yeah, okay, hold on a second.
I know we already did that when Alan made that comment about a quarter inch.
Yeah. That's what I thought he was talking about.
I was talking about gun barrels. I don't know what you guys are doing, but
I call it a gun barrel too, Alan.
Same, but different. Yeah.
120 millimeter howitzer. That's the length, not the diameter. Anyway, my point being more was the social media thing is we need to make a distinction in a civil society, whether they're a broadcaster or whether they're a platform, and we need to treat them accordingly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
well, and I would argue that they can't possibly be a broadcaster because they only exist through another means. So in the same way that Bell has to give you a telephone line, they don't have to give you a telephone. In the same way that so I think you're comparing apples to oranges, right?
I disagree. If Facebook is the public square of the digital age, then I should be able to speak in the public square. No one should be obligated to listen to me, but Facebook should be required to give me an account unless I actually commit crimes that prohibit me from speaking in the public square.
But you don't have any inherent right to get on CTV News. You can't just walk on and say I would like some airtime.
No, and I think you're conflating two different things. I'm not saying that I should be allowed to go sit on the CTV, but I should be able to go sit in front of the.
Right?
They are. That's fair.
So so comparing Facebook to CTV would be more apt than comparing Facebook to Bell.
I guess the distinction in my mind is at what point they start regulating the content their users are posting.
No,
What I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say.
Like I fully agree that we shouldn't be allowed to, like, Facebook should not be allowed to create their own content rules. If they're considering themselves a publicly accessible platform, everybody should have the ability to say what they want up to the point where they're breaking a law, like an actual law of the country in which it's being posted. I think that's totally reasonable.
But does that include me being offended?
No, that's not a law. There's no law against you being offended. Go ahead and be
that's
offended.
the problem with
shit,
it.
Yeah.
right?
Because
Well,
they're
I
willing
feel
to
like that
cater
is-
to all the Karens though. And they'll
I feel
block
like that
them.
is specifically why I don't have a Facebook account, is because for some reason someone found me less than appealing.
I can't imagine
I'm not-
somebody being upset by what you say.
I can't either. I feel like I'm like reasonably level, like even keeled on most. I am more than willing to listen to people's opinions, and I have very strong opinions myself about a great many things. But I'm not committing crimes. I'm not involved in hate speech. I'm not threatening violence. Usually,
and I agree that all of those things combined should be perfectly allowed, up to the point where someone becomes specifically threatened, whether they have great hair or not. When somebody becomes specifically threatened, that's when it should be investigated. And should it persist, I mean, wouldn't it be easier to track that person on a publicly available platform such as Facebook?
not
that out
to
there.
not to deviate in a massive way from the election, but I think that is part of the I think that is the part of the problem with companies like Facebook and other social media platforms and global homo in general is that they've kicked a lot of people off of the public part of the internet, like me, that have strong opinions, that even were like moderately right wing, that supported conservative or Republican type policies, and those people are no longer engaged in the surveillance apparatus that is social media. And I think this was a massive mistake by Facebook or the people running Facebook or the intelligence agencies that are involved in this. I think kicking people like me off of it that had slightly stronger than milquetoast opinions was a massive, massive issue to the intelligence apparatus, because now they can't see what I'm saying to my friends in encrypted chats on my phone using a VPN on Tor. Right? Like they can't
"Oh,
Or
see
using
that stuff
something
now.
else. Yeah.
Or at least not easily, right? Not as easy as on Facebook, where it was you
absolutely.
posted something on a public space, right? Like you don't have so much
Right, but that's
to
what I mean.
privacy
Like
if you make a public
someone
post.
like me,
Yeah.
someone like me that has a moderate amount of technical savvy that can use a VPN and use Tor and use encrypted chat programs to talk to my friends in a way where, like, it's safe to assume that the device that I'm using is probably compromised in some way, but nobody is man in the middling my data and pulling those conversations out of the internet where they would have just been able to like scrape that data off of Facebook because it's just publicly available.
Exactly.
And I feel like this was a major detraction to kicking all of the right-wing people off of social media, or all of the right-wing people that were not controlled opposition. Because there's still certainly right-wing people on social media, the Rebel being a great example of that. But I think kicking the rest of us off, it has definitely caused a harm to the intelligence services of the world, because now they have to do more work to figure out what people like political dissidents are saying to one another.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah, they just drove them underground is what they did.
But what does that do for their budgets now that they have to work harder? Now
Well,
they can justify budget increases.
I've never met anyone from the government who actually worked particularly hard, but that's neither here nor there.
I didn't say anything about working hard. I'm saying they had to work harder and can justify budget increases.
Fair enough.
A friend of a friend someone I know knows someone that works for government agencies or whatever, and is like a computer whiz and makes stupid amounts of money. And I think within the first 3 days of his job, he configured a program. He wrote a brand new program on a computer to do his work for him, so he could just sit there and play games all day.
I'm in no way surprised to hear that.
I mean, again, friend of a friend
As long as the
works
work's
for the
getting done.
government. And,
Right?
well, that's the thing. Friend of a friend works for a government agency here in the province, and they get a couple of 3 emails a day. And as long as they respond to those emails and show up to their meetings, nobody cares. That is their measure of productivity.
Yeah. Where do I get a
As
job?
long as they're not court mandated
Government.
meetings, it's all good.
Government. Shall we look at the election projections and talk about the platforms, because we've kind of diverged slightly?
Sounds good.
Can I just end that segment with fuck the CBC?
I mean, yes.
Sure, of course.
If I were the Supreme Chancellor, the CBC would probably, well, actually, that's not true. If I were the Supreme Chancellor, the CBC would definitely exist and do my bidding, not entirely unlike what the current government is doing, if I were being completely honest.
Absolutely.
Which is probably a great reason why I'm not in government.
Well, there's a lot of good reasons to control the largest media outlet in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely there is. I just wish that they were less dishonest, more honest about it. Something about double negatives.
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide is bad, okay?
Yeah, that's right. Too much of that makes you sound like an idiot.
Yeah. It's double plus bad.
It is double plus bad, bud.
Isn't it non-good?
Times two.
It's non-good. Double plus non-good.
Double plus non-good. Shall we look at other things that are double plus not probably good for my future or my family? The election projections.
Well, I've got a bit of an opinion on what I'm seeing there. And I mean, we'll have to see what happens in the polls in the next few days. Um, Personally, I think O'Toole's backtrack on and we'll probably talk about it later, but I think his backtrack on the whole removing the assault rifle ban, I think is going to hurt him more than he thinks it is. And those people that are going to disappear from the Conservatives aren't going to go Liberal, and they're not going to go NDP. They're going to go People's Party. And I think the People's Party is going to surprise some people. I mean, the Greens are dead. As far as I'm concerned, the Greens are dead. Their leader came out the other day and said they're only running candidates in 2/3 of the ridings anyways. I mean, there's 338 ridings and they're only running in 230 of them. So why is she part of the debate? You're not even running candidates in a whole third of the country, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, isn't Yves Saint Leblanc or whatever his French name is? Isn't he in the debates? And he's only running them in a third.
That's true. Yep, that's valid.
Yeah,
but he holds a lot more seats and weighs a lot more power. Whereas,
wow, the eastern part of Canada is disproportionately represented in government.
Come on.
Imagine my shock.
That's brand new information.
yeah.
But that's not just my thing. I think the Greens are dead, and I think they're saying the People's Party has a 0.3 chance of a seat or getting a seat. I think you'll be surprised. I think they'll snag one or two, and it'll be at the expense of O'Toole.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, especially with their strong anti-vaccine passport and their strong pro-firearm stance, they are going to sway a lot of the conservative and libertarian crowd their way, especially with Tim Moen kind of stepping down and away from all of that stuff.
I don't disagree that it'll swing a lot of people that way. I'm just curious if it'll swing enough people that way.
Sorry, which way are we swinging? I'm confused about all the bisexuality.
Both ways, yeah.
So right, like because
PCC is what people are saying. But I honestly think if people are planning on doing that, I think it's a mistake. I respect the PPC party, and after reading their platform, I agree with a lot of what's in there, but it's not the time. It's just not going to happen. We have a chance now to remove Justin Trudeau from office, and I think everybody needs to just focus at that goal.
And I never said I didn't disagree with that. I'm just saying that from what I'm seeing, and I mean, when I'm out traveling, I don't know what anybody else is seeing, but I am seeing a ton of PPC signs on people's lawns.
Yeah.
A lot more than Liberals, a lot more than NDPs, probably about the same amount as the Conservatives. I'm seeing a lot of them.
Don't feel obligated to answer, but
if the poll projections are anywhere near what they say they are, it's harsh saying this, but really, if you vote for the PPC, to me, it's a waste of a vote. You have a chance right now. We have a chance, and especially from the gun debate of things, we have a chance here to at least stop the bleeding for the next 4 years.
So.
And like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you that at all, and I'm just saying.
And even if he said he said, "Oh well, I'm gonna keep the order in council," but there still is.
Then you start getting into the whole
legislation and rewriting the whole Firearms Act. Like, to me, that's very interesting talk, because nobody else is really talking about that.
Well, but he hasn't said that he's going to rewrite the whole thing. What he said he's going to do is a transparent review of the classification system. So if we're going to get our ARs back, which is what everybody wants, right? And the other things that were named, that still needs to get undone. So as of right now, the AR platform, or the AR-15, specifically the AR-10, the Scorpion, the MPX, the et cetera, are all named specifically. Mm-hmm. So even if they recategorize things and say, okay, like all semi-automatics that have an 18.6-inch barrel are now non-restricted. Great, awesome, except that these ones are still specifically by name prohibited. So at some point or other, he will have to undo that and say, you know, that thing that I said that I wouldn't do, now I'm going to have to go and reverse my opinion again and undo it, because if people want, so.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, Gavin, but like, we got to think about the true alternative here. We got to look in the mirror and say, like, I understand what you're saying. And of course it would be a major letdown and everything, but it would be a lot better to have him in power.
Well, if we're talking
magazine restrictions,
but if
and
we're
all
talking
the other stuff they were talking about that was going to come.
Well, if we're talking in general about like who is going to be better off running the country, obviously O'Toole is going to be better at it than Trudeau. If we're talking specifically about the gun stuff, I mean, he said one thing, and now, 2.5, 3 weeks into the election, he's flip-flopped. Why is he flip-flopped?
Well,
because he's doing what's popular. He's playing the politic game.
Exactly.
And the whole job is to maintain power. So if you think that he's going to get into power and then reverse his opinion again, I think you're sadly mistaken. Because if he's flipped it this way in order to get the votes, in order to maintain the votes and maintain power, he can't go back on this. That's the problem. This is when you start getting into the whole, don't worry, guys, Trump has a plan. He's going to turn this around. And I know it's been 6 months since the election, but he's going to win.
So there's been a lot of things. Let's back up a ways. Let's start with the signs thing, because we all live in different places and I'm curious. We'll catch up. I've been making notes as we've been going. The PPC signs thing that Jeff mentioned is interesting to me. Because I'm curious about your writings and your local PPC candidates, if you are in communication with them at all, if they've invited you to any events or barbecues or canvassing, or if you've been told about getting signs or not. Because in my writing, if I want a sign, I can go pick one up from one of the depots that they have set up in the county, like in the riding, which is effectively the county.
Well, I can't say that I have, but I've been I have to say I've been very narrow-minded on my focus on.
No, and that's fair. I've
said it before. Like, I don't have anything against the PPC. I really respect everything that they have to say, and
I respect very little they have to say. But I'm curious about the sign things. Well, like what you guys have seen and observed, and if you're involved in any political party, if they have offered you signs, and what that process has been like. Because for my writing,
I'm allegedly involved with several parties. None of them have offered me signs. I will say that, like, I'm seeing a lot less signs this election than I did previously.
Yeah,
agreed.
And in my old neighborhood, which is Brian's riding, I am now in the riding immediately adjacent to it. There used to be a bunch of red signs, of which there are not now. There's maybe one or two.
So I
which
wonder,
is a good sign, and I'm seeing more conservative signs out in the general area than I am of anything else. But like, I'm seeing so few signs because I think people are trying to maybe keep that closer to the vest this year, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's not a public publicization thing, like people don't want to know as much. I agree that I'm seeing less signs, but I'm seeing way more PPC signs this year. Although in my writing, you have to contact the PPC people and go to a depot and pick up your own sign. They're not doing delivery anymore like has been in previous years. The Conservative Party, I believe, at least in my writing, is dropping them off. And I know every writing in Canada is a different policy, whatever.
At least Bill Blair's riding is dropping his signs off, except they're dropping them off into the woods and then blaming it on other people.
Yes, well, I mean, Bill, if I drank that much, I'd probably be dead. So the fact that he's a functioning alcoholic is impressive.
I was just about to say, it was like the night before he just got drunk and threw them all in the woods, and then woke up in the morning and
forgot.
someone else.
Yeah.
The thing is, he dropped them off and forgot where he put them. That's all.
Yeah.
Bro, where's my signs?
Yeah.
It
No,
was pretty funny though when he went on Twitter and he's like, "This is personal property. You can't do this to personal property." It's like, you don't like it when people take your personal property, eh, Bill?
we don't have property
Yeah,
rights to
except
deal
that,
with it.
except that nobody took those because they're saying that they were off of the people's lawns and not a single sign was dirty or had a bent stake or nothing. They'd just been chucked in the woods.
Yeah, it looked like somebody
Anyways,
had them.
Ah,
I'm-
you're saying
I'm
that this
seeing-
might have been a crime of political opportunity?
What?
Wow.
That's never been done before.
I mean, I would almost call this a black flag, except it's a red sign operation.
I think we should get the CBC to fact check this and get back to us.
That's a
on
great
Facebook.
idea. That is a great idea.
Yeah.
So,
So
I'm seeing
seeing-
about as many PPC signs as I am conservative.
Yeah.
There's one sign, like I see probably one for every 10. I see one red sign for every 10 blue ones around here. Now, this writing has been blue for, from what I can tell, at least as long as I've been alive and probably a little bit longer. And the signs are not only about half the size, they're being set way, way off the road, so they're really hard to see, which makes me think that they're not actually being requested. They're just being kind of left in places where they think they'll be seen, but not too obtrusive. And there's only one name on it. I don't even know the guy's last name. It's just his first name
Interesting.
on the red sign. I don't even know who our MB candidate is, frankly. I haven't seen a single sign for him.
Oh, well, you need to be more politically involved. I know who all the candidates are in my riding for all the parties.
Glad to hear that. I know we don't
Well.
have a Green candidate. I know we don't have a Marxist-Leninist candidate. I don't know who. I
Well,
don't know
that's
who the,
unfortunate.
who the MVP candidate is yet, which is basically the same thing. But
You should go and you should find these things out for reasons.
Yeah.
You know who
And
to blame
also-
when shit goes to bed.
I'm not saying that like you should keep a list of these things, but it might be worthwhile to make sure you know who your neighbors are
Yes.
for reasons. I am curious though, with everybody that's on the show tonight, if there is an issue that is more of a litmus test, more of a something that is more important to you for how a political party is than how they treat their firearms owners, though.
So I unfortunately look at how you treat firearms owners as how you're going to treat every human rights in the book, right? If you're willing to take anything and everything away that I have lawfully owned, right? Paid my taxes on when I purchased it, did your stupid course that you mandate, I pay my fees, you do your background checks and everything, and I have legally purchased it, and I have done nothing for you to come knock at my door and say, you don't have the right to have this anymore, right? I didn't go rob a bank with it. I'm just a regular Joe Blow. I do all my stuff. I go to the range, I shoot, I come home, I make more bullets, clean my guns or whatever. I unfortunately look at it as if your stance on that is your stance on anything and everything that could ever come up in the future, right? Because we are the bottom of the crop. You start with gun owners. And if you take everything away from gun owners, you can take anything away from anybody at the end of the day. That's my stance on how I think for all of that. And I don't think many of you will disagree with that. That, yeah, if you're going to take guns away from legal law-abiding citizens, right? If you take every gun away from every law-abiding citizen in Canada, what's to say they're not going to come in and take your food? What are you going to do? That's my view.
Well, I'm
Oh, I
trying to
mean-
find it, but I found an article. I think I posted it in our podcast chat, but basically it's under the when you talk about rights and ownership and whatever, is it right in the liberal housing plan. It basically says if your property is unused or isn't used for what they think it should be, that Trudeau basically says use it or lose it. We'll take it and we'll build houses on it.
Whether you're using it or not, they'll do that.
Yeah.
The liberals specifically, right? They're trying to tippy toe around it, saying, "Oh, well, if you're not using it, but like you could be living somewhere It happened not too far in
Yeah.
Ottawa, right? Like
Just,
they bought up a bunch
you're
of
using it in a
houses.
way that they don't want you to use it. That's the problem.
Or
Yeah.
they just want to use it for something else, right? They bought up a bunch of houses because they wanted to expand the highway, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, they offered stupid amounts of money, and a few people said no, and eventually they were like, "Well, here's your $20. It's ours now." Right?
Taking
Like
it anyways. Yep.
yeah, we're taking it anyways. You know, you had the offer of, you know, $1 million on something that's only worth $200,000, and you decided to, you know, stand your ground. Now you've got nothing, right? Here's your $20,000 for your house. Get out.
And here's the Expropriation Act that gives us the full freedom to do that.
Exactly, right? So I mean, that's where I stand. If it starts with gun owners, right? Because there's too many FUDs out there. There's too many people out there that are just happy going, you know, to the range, you know, 3 times a year and hoping to get Bambi's daddy or mommy in the fall, right? They shoot three bullets a year, and you know, they don't see it as they're coming for us, right? They take it after everybody else, pretty much everybody on here, right? You guys recreationally shoot.
First they came for the labor unionists, and I said nothing.
Well, yes, but that's because labor unions.
Yeah. But no,
And they
I
came for
agree.
the
I mean, I hate being a single issue voter, because I think that's the dumbest thing ever. But here I am being a single issue voter because sometimes that issue is so important, because it's the thing that basically protects all of the other things.
Well, and
And it really comes down to a private property rights thing. And if we don't have private property rights, we have zero rights.
I unfortunately have to
here's
agree
the
with
exact
Gavin.
wording of what this thing said. It said, we'll work with municipalities within this program to identify vacant or underused property that should be converted to housing on the principle of use it or lose it. That core urban land should be available for new housing, not left vacant or as unproductive investment property. So basically they're saying if you bought the property as an investment, you're not using it for how we like it. We're just going to take it.
I mean, I get that up to a point, but also I don't live in those places for a specific reason, and it's because they're those places.
Oh, exactly.
If you
And
choose to live in
why I'm
Toronto or Vancouver, or I'm trying to think of another example where this is the case.
Montreal.
Really, I think it's
Montreal.
Toronto and Vancouver.
Montreal.
I guess if you're on the island in Montreal.
Okay. But if I want to buy up all of the property and hold it in the hope that the market is going to go up, that's a me problem, because if it does, great. If it doesn't, I'm screwed.
If I still pay my property tax, right? You tell me to pay $1,000 a month to have this property, and I still pay that, and I pay whatever. Like, who are you to tell me that I need to do something more than what is already legally required of
If
me?
anything, somebody needs to go in and do that to limit the population in these cities, to bring it back down again,
Yeah.
not
But
increase
I
it.
would really hope that the intent behind this is that they're going to go to shopping malls that have 80% vacancy rates and say, listen, this is not an effective use of this space. Let's do something different. I really hope that's what they're aiming at, or all the office towers that are now going to be sitting empty because people are going to be, because we've realized this year we can work from home and we don't have to come to an office just for the sake of coming to an office.
Yeah, but then you think that the people that own it.
I wish people were as altruistic as Alan would like them to be, but I don't think that's the case. I think that's going to be like the local. We have an undeveloped lot between two houses in my neighborhood, and it's going to be whoever owns that isn't doing anything with it, and it's just because it's an undeveloped lot. It's just a sand lot with nothing in it, and I think that the local commissary is going to come by and go, condos.
Yep.
Put a ball diamond on it. It's now being used properly.
If I owned a mall and that mall was half empty because everyone closed for COVID, it's in my best interest to try to attract people there, or say, you know what? Fuck it. This mall isn't making me money anymore and charging rent. I need to turn it into something that is, or sell the property to somebody that will take that risk.
Well,
so
I think
there's
that's
financial.
I think that's what, again, I really hope, and I'm probably wrong, but I really hope that that's the intent is, hey, we've got this building. It's not being used properly. Let's incentivize you turning it into housing.
I don't like
Yeah, but the
idea
incentive is
of
if
the
you don't
government
do that, we're
deciding.
going to take it. It's not we're going to give you
That's the part
tax
where I have a
breaks or
problem
we're
with
going to
that.
do something to make it so that you can be profitable at this.
I
It's
don't like the
if
idea
you
of the
aren't
government.
doing it.
I don't like the idea of the government being able to decide what I get to do with my property or not, whether that's my real estate property or my firearms property or my child or my own body for that matter. I don't like this idea that the government gets to have a say in what I do with my stuff.
Sure. And whether they, but again, we're talking about making it a good idea to, not making it a requirement to. That's what I'm talking about, anyways. It seems like I'm wrong, right? It really
I feel like there's
I'm
a
wrong.
divergence between what you're saying, Alan, which I don't really disagree with, but I don't feel like the government is acting in my best interest.
Oh, I don't think it's possible for the government to act in our best interest. I think that's a conflict of terms.
Yeah.
Right, and that would be different if, like, for example, right, like Andrew was talking about a lot that's just empty as a stank gravel pit, right? And if the government went up and just be like, hey, look, like, market value is $10,000 for this, we'll give you $30,000 because we want to put, an apartment building for 4 different families that are looking in the area or something, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be that. I mean, it's wishful thinking that the government would do something, in that way, saying,
even remotely makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? So if that's the government plan, right, to take underutilized properties and incentivize the owners to turn it into something, whether it be more productive for the community itself and not cause a burden on the property owner, I'm all up for it, but I just don't think that's how it's going to go.
So the challenge I see with this, and my former mother-in-law, for all the reasons we didn't get along, one of the things I learned from her, she was born and raised in communist Lithuania, right, in the USSR, and what happened there was they said, well, we're coming into this house, there are 5 bedrooms, you're going to now hold 5 families, and we're taking those other 4 houses for the army. That's what ended up happening as a result. And it started out as something like this. So I'll make it really clear. I'm not in favor of this plan. I don't think it's a good idea. I hope that if it does come into play, that it goes my way. I fear that it's going to go the other way.
Yeah.
I agree. No.
I think that's a reasonable criticism. The other thing that Gavin started to touch on, and I will try to do my best internet impression, is it's 4D chess, bro. Just trust the plan, bro. Just one more election, bro. We just have to do this thing, bro. Why can't you just trust the plan, bro?
2 weeks to flatten the curve. That's
2 weeks to flatten the curve, bro. We just have to get Trump elected. Gold fringe on the flag, bro. Like, it's just, I have a problem with this notion that O'Toole or any other politician has some master plan that's going to benefit me or people of my mindset at some future point, and he's playing 4D chess just to get elected. I don't think that is an honest assessment of what's going on. I think that he's just trying to get elected because he's a politician and he's trying to get elected.
So
I remember he's going to need to, once he gets elected, stay elected and stay in power. Otherwise, it's a one-term thing, and then it's back to doing whatever he did. So yeah, if he, flip-flops on the gun thing to get elected, he's going to have to stay flip-flopped in order to keep getting elected, because if he reverses that again...
He's flip-flopping on the election so that he gets elected. Like, he's just got to tell people that he's not going to overturn the OIC so that he can get into power and then overturn the OIC.
But
just trust the plan, bro.
But then not get elected the next
go around.
Right?
That's kind of my problem with that, is like it's intellectually dishonest from the beginning.
And if he's going to flip-flop on this, what else is he going to flip-flop on?
Everything. He's a politician.
Well, and this is part of my problem with all politicians, and I have the same view of Max and the People's Party. I don't think that Max is any different than any other politician from Quebec.
No.
Yeah.
Which is to say that I don't think he's
you put a "le" in front of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, but he's still a politician and he's still trying to get elected.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick somebody in good faith based on their platform, the conservative
Jesus.
platform looks just like the liberal platform to me reading through it. The difference is the rate
Wow.
at which we're giving away money, but we're still giving
Maybe
away
let's
the
not
same
go
money.
let's not go that far. Like maybe
It
take
really
10%
is, though.
off.
No,
That's about it.
It's not
Read
that far
the-
off. Yeah.
They
Yeah,
really
it's-
are
it's
very
like
similar
it's-
platforms.
Yeah. It's yeah.
The conservatives will use a little bit of loop.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
but I don't want somebody
spit
to
on it first,
like the
right?
problem is I don't want to be raped. I don't want somebody to rape me with a little bit of lube versus somebody to rape me with no lube. I just don't want to be raped.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree.
I think
But
I think we're beyond that
if you
point,
only
though.
had option A and option B, right? Everybody wants a little bit of loop, right?
Like,
Option
mean-
C of
and
not
that-
making it happen is not there, right?
And I think
I'm
this
pretty
is where
sure-
we're in the problem because
Yeah,
you've got
this-
option A, which is really, really bad butt stuff. Option B is at least there's a little bit of lube. And option C is
None
you're
of
not
the
going to
above.
get
We
any
don't
of that at
know.
all.
But option C
But-
isn't you're not going to get
But
any
not
of that at
enough
all.
people are voting for C that if I vote for C, I may end up with option A
Well,
instead of
I-
option
Right.
B. And that's
I
the problem.
wonder about
we're
that.
in.
I wonder about that too, because the CSSA had an article about that. I put a link in the show notes. Is that the CSSA, the CCFR, the NFA, all the pro-gun orgs are all like, vote blue or fuck you, because like that's that's all the gun orgs are like. You need to vote. Don't split the vote. Vote conservative. And it's like, what has voting conservative gotten me in all of the elections I've been allowed to vote for?
Well, we
okay.
did get the long gun registry taken
Which is
away.
back now. Which
But that's-
okay, so
but that's
we
not a
delayed
conservative
the
problem.
long gun registry.
Yeah.
Great. We delayed the long
deleted
gun
it.
registry.
Well, but we
It was-
also now know better, and it will be significantly less intact than they thought it was when it came in the first place.
But I'm still gonna
Except
have
for
to
the new
deal with
one
the
that's
long gun
coming.
registry. Like that's my
Yeah.
what has voting conservative in the last 20 years? What has that gotten me?
It's slowed.
Lube
sodomy.
on the butt stuff.
Right, but that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like it really, like whether you want to use the like not PC rape analogy or the very PC crash the plane analogy that I'd been using up till today. Now we're talking about lube, which is a whole other set of problems. But whatever. Like the last 20 years of elections in this country, it's been like, okay, we're going to crash the plane. We're just going to crash it a little slower.
Yeah, we've put a little extra fuel in the tank for you. We've refueled midair, so it'll glide a
Yeah.
little bit further.
Yeah.
But
This is-
like, that's the problem is like the difference is the liberals are going to try to crash the plane into the ground and the conservatives are going to try and crash the plane into the runway. Nobody's concerned about the fact that we're still crashing the fucking plane.
But I think
Yeah.
I think the analogy there is that the crash is a foregone conclusion. It's simply because you've got politicians at the helm. Like that's
Well,
that's the problem.
Again,
It doesn't matter who you vote for.
Were
voted for
I the
Kang,
supreme leader-
whereas you voted for Kodos.
Were I the supreme leader, we wouldn't be voting. We would just have my name on the ballot and you get to check yes. But I don't get to run the country.
There's two boxes
Yet.
and they both say yes. So you feel like you have choice.
Yes in blue or yes in red.
The boxes say
Yeah.
cake or death.
Yeah.
So
No,
if
I'm-
we're gonna be crashing the plane, I say we vote for the one captain that'll land it on the river like a few years ago.
Yeah,
in the
I mean-
Sully.
But-
we want
but
Sully.
Tom
Hanks
Elizabeth.
isn't-
Let's
Tom Hanks
let's
isn't on
find
the
that
ballot.
pilot.
Is Tom Hanks an
Yeah.
option? Is that a write-in option?
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
let's figure out who can do that. Right.
Well,
Land
I
it
don't.
on
I
the
don't
water
think
safe.
anyone can
And
do
there's
that.
not.
Looking,
But this
There
looking
is.
the thing
in
is that
detail.
all the people that are on the plane have a different view of what a safe landing is.
That's
Including the pilot and the co-pilot, right?
Yes,
Like the two people
absolutely.
trying to work together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the
Everybody has a
problem.
different view of what a
Absolutely.
safe landing is. So no matter what, you're pissing off a segment of the population.
I'm okay
which
with
is
that.
why we need
As-
to
as long as
disenfranchise
it's
as
not
many
us.
people as possible.
I'm 100% with Gavin on this. I don't mind pissing off a lot of the people in this country. I just wish those people didn't get to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be so much easier.
Did you pay
Like,
taxes? How
I
much
mean,
did you
I
pay in
think-
taxes? That's how many
Did you
votes
pay
get.
taxes is a great litmus test. Are you willing to suffer physical bodily harm in defense of the nation? I think is another great litmus test.
Absolutely.
I think, do you work for the state? Again, great litmus test in the negative. If you work for the government, you shouldn't get a say in how shit runs.
No.
But if I
should.
work for the government, I still pay taxes on things, right?
But is it still a conflict of interest? If you're in the government, well, I should get a raise and I work hard and I should do all the. No, fuck you. You work for the government. It's a public service. Piss off.
But if I pay
No.
taxes, no taxation, no representation, right?
No.
But if you're
No,
working, if you work
I
for the
disagree.
government-
I fundamentally disagree with the premise of no taxation without representation, because first past the post democracies do not adequately represent the people paying taxes. The premise that taxation without representation is fundamentally flawed. The people in government should absolutely not get a say in how that government runs. It is a public service that should be run as a service.
If anything, they should be paid less and then not taxed.
Right, like if you
I'm
work-
willing to accept that. That's a fine outcome.
Yeah.
Solves that problem.
No, I agree.
if you work for the
sold.
government, right, you shouldn't have a vote provincial elections, for example, right? In Ontario, so many people work for the Ontario government.
Wait,
So if one
whatever
party decides
level
that
of
they're going to
government
give,
you work
you know,
for, you should
yeah.
vote in.
right? So for
No,
example,
not
let's
that
use
you shouldn't
Ontario.
vote in, that you should be prohibited by law from voting.
Well, yeah.
Right. So in Ontario, right, too many people or a lot of people work for the Ontario government. So
No,
if
you were
one
right, too many.
party decides that too many. If too many people work for Ontario government, right? So if a political party, when it comes to the Ontario elections, decides that they're going to run on a platform of, hey, 2% raise for everybody that works for the government, right? You should not be allowed, if you work for the government, you should not be allowed to vote for that specific government election.
So,
Right, because there can be. I mean, I don't know if that's actually happened. I haven't looked into it, or if that's even
absolutely
a
it does.
possibility of someone running. Right, but
Politicians
so I mean, if you
always
really
vote
think
for
about it,
their own raises, that's for sure.
right? So that's what I mean,
But
right?
even
Like,
also last time around, they promised teachers a whole ton of extra money and resources, and that's where it gets muddled, because teachers are paid by the school board, which is a local, it's a municipal authority, but they're funded by the province and the federal government. So do they just not get to vote at all?
Yes.
I have another solution for this. Private
no
schools.
taxes. Oh, no taxes.
Well, I mean, we could remove government indoctrination centers. I'm not terribly opposed to that idea.
No, me neither.
I'm not either. I'm using teachers as an example, right? Like
No, but
No,
that-
but
that-
I think
that's-
it's a fine example, and I think that's the problem. Is if you're receiving remuneration from the government in some degree, much like how, as an example with our current legal system, if you're a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, you are not allowed to express a public opinion about the government. You will be jailed over that.
Really?
Because they are your employer.
It is a violation of the Canadian Forces legal system. The Canadian Forces has a separate legal system from the rest of the country. If you publicly express your opinion as a serving member of the Canadian Armed Forces, you could go to jail or worse over that opinion. I feel like that is an absolutely equitable outcome to apply that same logic or ruling to teachers or political servants or your bylaw officer or the local dog catcher, because if you receive remuneration from some level of government, it is a conflict of interest for you to have a say in how that government functions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that in principle. How far do you take it? So, for example,
All the way.
okay, so for
No
example, the federal government, for better or worse, and I'm I know what your opinion is going to be on this, but for better or worse, all three levels of government are generally involved in funding geared to income housing bills. So those geared to income housing bills then go out to tender, and a private contractor then bids on it, wins the bid, they hire other contractors. They're being paid by the government in essence.
You're right. This becomes very messy very quickly. And again, were I the Supreme Chancellor of Canada, we wouldn't have that problem because we wouldn't be doing that program.
We wouldn't be doing that. And that, again, for better or worse, this is what I'm saying. For better or worse, that's how it works right now. So would you?
But this is what I'm saying. Like, the entire premise is the system is broken. Like
Yes.
that my entire premise is based on like this system does not work, and were it up to me, it would not function like that. Well, it doesn't function this way as it is, but were it up to me, we would remove a lot of these people physically, so to speak, from society.
Agreed.
Okay.
From a helicopter or in the square
mean,
off of
You're on an airplane somewhere. And
Okay.
it's crashing.
Dictator's choice. I mean, whatever. Helicopter,
Heads or tails?
bulldozer.
I don't even need a helicopter. I physically wish to remove these people from society so I don't have to deal with them.
A lottery.
They
about
can
how it
literally
works.
just go over there.
Yeah.
Like they can just go away. I don't need to physically remove them with a helicopter. I just don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
They could just physically remove themselves to a place that,
That
this
suits
is
them.
the thing that always bugs me is that like you get a lot of these left-leaning types that are like, well, if you want American style stuff, why don't you just go to America? And it's like, well, so like I don't get a say on how this goes here. Like if you want crazy left-leaning stuff, why don't you just go back to like communist wherever?
Well,
Go
I
to-
guess
go to
the what
England.
Oh, England? That's a failed country if there ever was one. Do you know if you Google giant trash island in the Atlantic Ocean, you'll get a picture of England? Regardless of me picking on the British, I'm still
Remember
unsure
when
how to
they,
vote in
like-
this election, which is
Yeah.
really the impetus of this whole thing. And we
did
are
do that.
we are
actually did.
getting a little bit long. We're certainly not out of time, but we are getting a little bit long to the end of the show. And my whole impetus of this is I don't know how to vote, and ultimately I don't know that it matters. But like, let's pretend that it does.
Okay, so do you if you want to vote to remove Trudeau, you vote Conservative. If you want to vote to improve policy, PPC is probably your best bet.
See, but now we're almost at the same point as where the Liberals were on their first election, right?
Yep.
Vote
Anybody
anybody
but
but
conservative.
Harper
Yeah.
because he's Hitler. He's the devil,
Well, I mean, he
We're
was
all-
literally the devil.
right? But I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost at that point.
He
right?
made
Like,
Trudeau
just-
elbow that girl in the tit just by being in the room.
Wow.
Exactly. Right. But we're at that point where the Liberals were after the Conservative government, right? Vote anybody.
But
Just to get
I'm
him
not
out.
saying vote anybody. I'm saying you can strategically
Yeah,
you can do one of two things, right? You're either voting for somebody that you support, or you're voting against Trudeau. And back to Brian's point, Jeff's point, you're kind of splitting you are kind of splitting the vote that way.
Yeah.
Either way, the Liberals lose seats, but do we want a conservative minority or do we want a conservative majority?
I would like to be left alone by the government in its entirety. Is there an option for that?
Yeah.
Not in
Can
our
we
current
maybe
system.
just suspend Parliament indefinitely?
Well,
So if
Andrew, you remember
nobody-
we had this conversation. I believe we were sitting at the bar after a shoot, and we all agreed that we would be happy with if things would just remain the way they are now, but we were just left alone and there was no new legislation.
Oh no, absolutely. When my biography comes out, when I'm writing it out on foolscap paper in my prison cell, and my
It's
attorney takes it to publish it.
manifesto. It's pronounced
Yeah.
manifesto.
That's manifesto. Yeah.
That's actually the name of our next album. Yeah.
When my biography comes out, the title will be "I Just Wanted to Grill, Bro."
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to be left alone. I didn't want to do any of the things that I'm involved in politically. I didn't want to be involved in any of these lawsuits with the government. I didn't want to be called as an expert witness. I don't want any of this stuff. I just wanted to be left alone to play guns and grill. Like, just leave me alone. But the government cannot seem to understand that I just want to be left alone.
Well, to finish my thought there, I feel like if we do pick the turd up by the clean end, as you like to say, and we will vote.
I think my language is more colorful, but I get what you're saying.
And I think it's a clear choice to vote conservative. And if he does repeal the order in council and C-71, that's major bonus for us. But at the very least, we can agree that we'll be left alone. And
I don't know that we will, though.
But
That's my problem.
They're not going to come after us, and they're not going to be like they're not going to push the handgun ban, the municipal handgun
No.
ban. They're not going to push any more restrictions on us. They're not going to make us destroy our AR.
But how do you know that? That's just what they're saying, and they'll say anything to get elected. Don't get me wrong. Again, I've got nothing against the PCs,
Yeah.
and I'm probably going to vote for them. But that's my
So
Well, I mean, for them to all of a sudden, and then he has flip flop, but like realistically, do you really think if they got in power that they would just pick up and take off where the Liberals stopped and just start coming after us all of a sudden?
No, I don't think they will
so.
come
No, I don't
after
think
us.
they will, but I'm playing the devil's advocate on that.
Yeah, I know, but let's be realistic. I really think that if he goes back and he flip flops on his promise to repeal C-71 in the Order in Council, well then I hope that at the very least we'll be left alone to play guns for the next 4 years, and we won't have to worry about this shit.
Okay, but that's the thing. So we won't have to worry about it for 4 years. So I agree. He will not aggressively target gun owners. He'll leave us more or less status quo, right? Like if he keeps the gun ban in place, we might even get to keep our ARs without having them dewadded like Trudeau is planning, and like we won't have to like have magazines that are like actually permanently 5 rounds. But
maybe he makes a grandfather license and you're allowed to use it under that. Right?
Like that doesn't help me though. This is sorry. I want to interrupt on the grandfathering thing.
Yeah, but how does he make it so that in 4 years, when the Liberals get in again, or in 8 years, or in 10 years, how does he make it so that they can't just turn around and continue where they left off however long ago and say, you know what? We managed to get the assault rifles out last time. Now let's go for the handguns. They had a chance when they had a majority under Harper to do some stuff, just like the 858. They could have reversed that completely, except they didn't. They made it so that those were specifically exempt by name. So when Wolverine came out with the 858s with the wood furniture, they got fucked because, that's not the 2P tactical model. That's the 2P tactical with the wooden grips, which is a different model number, which is still prohib. So Harper could have done something about it, but he didn't do anything meaningful when he had a majority. I don't think that O'Toole will either. And that's the problem. While we may not get fucked harder for the next 4 years if they get a majority, at some point in the future we will.
But is there not something to be said where we're just like having that peace of mind where at least we know we're not going to be attacked, where it's like, okay, what's it going to be next week, or like what?
Yeah, but it's going to be what's it going to be in 4 years? Like I'm not saying that I'm not voting conservative this go around either, because I do still think that, as much as I hate to admit it, it's still the cleanest end of the poop and the most likely chance of getting Trudeau out, which I think is still a better option. Like if
that
I'm
would be a
get
win.
Fucked, at least if I'm getting fucked, I'd like to like the guy that's fucking me.
Can we think about the day where
we need to have a talk about that?
Prime Minister anymore?
Well, I am curious about the victory. Trudeau not being the prime minister would be a good thing. And Trudeau has said that if he doesn't get a majority government, we're going to be doing this again in 18 months, which, I mean, good news, endless content for the podcast. Bad news, still don't know who to vote for in 18 months.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something Brian brought up, though, and Gavin sort of touched on it a little bit with the Harper government didn't do anything to help me. The Conservative government in my adult lifetime has not done anything to help me, or not done anything to help firearms owners. And the specific problem that I have with this is the grandfathering thing that you mentioned, Brian. And it's certainly not like a pick on you thing, but like, as an example, I would really like to own an FN FAL, a C1. I would like to own a 308 battle rifle, like a man's rifle. Yep. But I cannot do that because I was born in 1988. And it is impossible for me to own a converted or full auto C1. I cannot ever in this country own an FN FAL. And I would like for my son to have one of the ARs that I built before he was born. And there is no way for me to do that. And that ultimately, like that is my real test of the government, is if I can have property and I can pass on to my children that property. And I've already picked on the British, and I don't know if I picked on the Americans in this podcast, but I'm not one to quote Americans, but I prefer peace. But if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my children know peace. I don't want to kick this can down the road 4 years. I don't want to do that. If they're going to take my stuff, I want them to come and take my stuff now. I'm in the best shape I've been in a decade since I got out of the army. If they want to come and fight me for my stuff, then let's go fight me for my stuff and let's do that. Because my son is a small child and he has no chance of doing anything. There's no way for me to give him any of my property. If they're going to do this, like, let's do this now.
Well, and even taking it in a less intense way. Not that I disagree with you, because I absolutely 100% agree with you.
Well,
But
everything except
that
maybe the Thomas Paine quote. But I mean, again, I don't like quoting Americans, but sometimes.
I quote it slightly different, but I think that quote is a very good one. But even if you're not going to be physically confrontational in protecting your stuff, or even verbally confrontational, the stress that you have to undergo every 4 years worrying about it takes its toll on you. So if they are going to do it, I would rather just give it up now so that I can live the rest of my life not having to worry about giving up my stuff every 4 years.
Yeah, or you know, how much money are you gonna dump to build a new AR that you didn't finish before this ban? Right?
Well, how much money do I have
boat
sitting in a safe that I can't use now?
Useless,
That's
right?
the
Like
and what do I want to buy now? Do I want to buy one of these new cool WK 180s that are coming out, or are they going to just get added to the list too? Right.
Like,
so like how much more
like
money am I going to piss away?
Right. And I mean,
well,
you know, for all you know, people had 2 ARs they were just about to build, right? And this OIC
I have more bear receivers than that.
Right. But just bear receivers. But for all you know, there was someone that was, you know, spent hours and hours and days and weeks researching, you know, budgeting, buying everything, and it just got everything and put everything back together. Never even put a fucking round through it. Right.
You're literally describing the service rifle I built for last season, because I didn't even zero my new service rifle. I built a new service rifle and they were like, your guns are now banned. And I was like,
right.
Well, fuck.
Right. And I mean, at least you've had the opportunity to shoot AR, but like, for all you know, someone has only shot someone's AR and said, you know what, I'm going home and building one. Right. They've shot it once and they fell in love with it. And they were like, I'm going to go home and build one. They've spent all this time, everything. And right. And for the government to just come in and say, nope, not anymore. Right. So do you want that constant battle of being like, well, for the next 4 years, I'm good. And then ended up in the shoes where like, okay, now it's gone. What do I buy next? Right. Do you want to dump all that money in? Right. Do you want to waste your time having to worry about it?
Yeah, as of right now, I have somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 tied up in this that I am unable to use.
Yeah, I'm probably in the similar boat, and I don't know that there's a good outcome from this, and it's certainly not like necessarily a piss on the conservatives or people that want to vote conservative. But I am genuinely at a dilemma as what to do, and I think part of this, and maybe to expand on this, there's maybe two tracks to take with this. Because there's what you can do individually and what you can do as a smart person are maybe not the same things. So if you live in downtown Toronto and you have guns, I shouldn't even say necessarily downtown Toronto. If you live in a strong liberal riding and you want to make a protest vote against liberals, I don't know. I don't know about the strategic voting thing. I don't know how that would work. And I think that might be something worth exploring. I think I live in a very strong conservative riding, a riding that is historically very conservative. I live in rural southern Ontario. The conservatives will win again in this riding. The conservatives always win in this riding. The conservatives have won in this riding for longer than I have been voting. I don't think in the current electoral map, the conservatives have ever not won the riding in which I live. But I'm not voting conservative. I don't think. I think I'm going to vote for the People's Party. And that in no way really changes the political landscape of this country. And I feel like that's a strategic move, but I also feel like it's a protest move. And I'm still not sold on it. But the last 5-6 years I've lived in this riding, I've talked to this MP, the current conservative MP, many, many times. And he's not a good MP. He's not invested in this riding. He's not invested in the people here. He doesn't put on events to get to know people here. He doesn't bring the community together in a significant way. And in the last couple of months, the PPC candidate I have seen the opposite from. He makes phone calls. He goes to people's houses. He's put on barbecues. He's done a bunch of events. I think that he would be a much better representative of the riding because he seems to give a shit. I don't think he has a chance in hell in winning.
That doesn't matter.
What winning is literally the only thing in life that matters.
No, but
everything is a contest.
Yes, but the more votes he gets this time, the better off he's going to be next time.
Well, and that's where I have the same dilemma, because I think we really need to have, like, I really do think that the PPC is going to show a lot better than the polls are showing when it's all counted at the end.
Yeah.
And I want them to do really well, because all we're seeing from all of the parties is this continual shift to the left. And I'm not saying we need to go like super hard, crazy fascist all the way to the right, but like maybe shifting things.
Just the Hugo Boss outfits, not necessarily like the cars, or
like
trying to figure out how far
we don't have the skull symbol on the hat, but like, like if the PPC does well, then it's going to show that there are people that have more right-leaning values and opinions, and it might help bring the Conservative Party, at the very least, back on track to where they're actually conservatives and not liberal lights, because they keep shifting to the left to get the votes.
Reading the Conservative platform, I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't have time to get into all the Conservative platform stuff, but I feel like we're already going a little long. The Conservative platform reads to me very much like the Liberal platform with smaller dollar figures. Not entirely, certainly not entirely, but like
marginally, like smaller enough that they can say that it's smaller.
In broad strokes, it reads like the Liberal and Conservative platforms read very similarly.
It's broad strokes with loop.
Yes, but it's still rape, and that's still my problem with it. I'm still not okay with that.
I know.
And this is why my dilemma. This is my, like, and maybe this is my own personal dilemma. Maybe this isn't a listener dilemma or other panelists dilemma, but my dilemma is I don't know where to put my vote into a way that it matters, because I don't think, and I've said before, and it bears repeating, I don't think O'Toole is a good conservative. I don't think he's a good leader for the Conservative Party. And I don't like the current policy that they're pushing, because I don't think that they're being conservative. And I'm not saying that we need to like go like 100% Tehran and like throw the gays off of roofs. Like I'm not advocating for that, but like it would be nice to see a return to family values and like the nuclear family. I would appreciate that, because I have a nuclear family and that appeals to me.
Or not even necessarily espousing the virtues of that, just not shitting on that would be nice.
I would like to not be shit on for being a straight white man with a wife and child who identifies as the gender I was born as. It would be a nice change of pace for me to not have the government shitting on me for leading a reasonably normal life.
Unless there's a crazy payday involved. I'm open.
Yeah, I mean, $20 is $20. Don't get me wrong.
Everyone's got their price. Yeah,
exactly.
And apparently mine is $20, but neither here nor there.
Hey, $20 is a lot of money these days. But like,
I am genuinely, I don't know what to do in this situation. And I was really hoping that we would get to a better outcome from this. And I'm not sure that I'm any further along, but like,
you know what we really need? A time machine. For many reasons.
So that I could go back to the 60s and be paid to shoot at UN forces in the Congo?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but also like we could stop.
Republic of the Congo.
We could stop.
Whatever. The point is, I would get to shoot at blue helmets and get paid.
We could also go back and like make sure that like Bernier won the election against Scheer, and then we wouldn't be having this vote splitting problem, because the guy that we want to vote for would be the leader of the party.
If we had a time machine, we could just go back and save Harambe.
That would solve all of these problems.
I'm telling you, man, this is the darkest timeline. That goddamn gorilla.
Yeah.
And we could prevent Castro from having a child, and Trudeau wouldn't be around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's going back further, but yes, I'm not opposed to that either.
I mean, we've got a
If we're
time
going
machine,
back
so
in
we can
time,
do
I mean,
whatever. Yeah.
let's make it useful for us.
Yeah,
living in
but
this
temporal
country, right?
paradoxes and stuff, because I mean, then we need to
Okay,
debate
we
whether or
only
not
do
time
it
is
like
linear.
3 times.
Invest in
Only-
GameStop.
So
Yeah.
so we get rid of
Fuck all that other shit. Invest in GameStop. And then we can just move anywhere we want in the world and just fucking have all the guns and do whatever the fuck we want.
We could buy Garbage Island and just start our own country.
Exactly.
Or Cuba, where there's,
That's what he said. Garbage Island.
yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Same, but different.
I think voting PPC, if enough people vote PPC, it's going to send the conservatives a message that there's an appetite for
conservative.
right-leaning
don't-
policy.
I don't mean to shit on that parade.
Slightly left-leaning policy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to shit on that parade, but I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters because the conservatives are all like, yeah, gay marriage, abortions, marijuana, no guns. Like, what are we conserving? Like the whole notion of conservatism is like antithetical to the way the government operates. It's really not about conservation of what we have. It's about the slow decline of democracy towards the left.
Right, the conservatives have just not had enough power in the last little while that they've.
Well, it's not about having power. Even when they had a majority government, what did they conserve?
Right, they didn't conserve anything, right? But when was the last time they had a majority other than Harper?
2008.
No, but before that.
Before Harper.
I don't know, 1992.
Right, so they've been away for so long they can't get anywhere, right? So they've gone from being quotations conservatives, right? And they're like, hey, look, the liberals keep getting in power, right? So let's just slowly towards
they're chasing the votes and not holding to their values.
They're not holding to the values, right? They're not conservatives. They're just like liberals that use lube.
I lied. It was Mulrooney. It was 1988, not 1992. My bad. 92 was correction.
So 88
for the record,
to
though,
2008,
the conservatives
right?
are the ones that had the first female prime minister.
Yeah, because the guy quit. I mean, I guess technically it still counts, and technical is the best kind. So
Right.
Campbell was conservative?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean, sure, she was elected by the party, not the people, but whatever, same difference. We don't elect the person in this country anyways.
A win is a win. Take the W.
Yeah.
Ideally, it'd be nice to have the conservatives and the PPC form a majority and a minority government.
Yeah, get an alliance government.
Out of all options?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, that's why I want the time machine, so we could just go back in time and Bernier would be the head of the Conservative Party, then we wouldn't need two parties.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna
for the one,
if we're gonna LARP that hard, let me get my D20 out, because really, even if we couldn't get to a real representative democracy and we still had to do the whole first past the post, weighted ballot bullshit thing that we have to do now, like the parliamentary democracy that we have today. If we could just have more parties and not have people trying to form majority governments, that would work out in my favor, because that government would be ineffective, just like every minority government in the history of the country.
Yeah.
Because they would have to form coalition governments.
Yeah.
The vast majority. Best. Well, but this is the thing. The vast majority of European states, this is how it works, right? Is Germany has 170 significant political parties that all hold tiny portions. Right. And there are a lot of European companies that have European countries that have this, where you have a lot of coalition governments. Even the Israeli government is like this, because they have so many political parties in the Knesset that they have to form coalition governments.
It's called a cabal.
No, it's the name of the name of Israeli parliament is the Knesset. I am 100% right on this. Get Benny to fact check me, but this is my thing. It's
CBC.
We have get the CBC to fact check. Get Benny a job at the CBC so that we can get a kickback and get fact checked. But my point being is, in other first world alleged air quotes first world democracies, most countries are run by coalition governments. The exception is the Brits the Americans and us.
And I was talking about that earlier today. I would love to see a system in which whipped votes are completely prohibited. I would take away the benefit of the majority, and
Make
I
people
would
talk
vote,
to each other.
Yeah, make people talk to each other, make people work together. I would vote for any leader that promised to not whip a vote.
Well, or I would be okay.
I don't know
with
about any
votes
leader,
if
but
it
I would vote for a lot of people that didn't do that.
No, I'm fine with whip votes as long as every vote is a whip vote, so that I know how the people are going to vote. It's the not necessarily knowing part of it that's the frustrating part, because it's like, is this person going to vote the way that their constituents want or the way that the party wants?
Well,
It's a toss-up every time. At least if it was consistent, then you would know how to vote. The fact that it's not consistent is the frustrating part. But yes, I agree generally that whip voting is stupid, and that there should maybe necessarily be no political parties, and you just vote for the person that you want to lead your municipality, and then they all have to work
this goes
together.
Back to what I was. Goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. Like, even our NDP candidate in my writing, like, he's not a bad dude. I've talked to him. I don't agree with some of his politics. Well, like, I mean, like, yeah, he can't count to potato because he is literally an actor at the Stratford Festival, but like,
shocking.
He's not a bad dude. His heart's in the right place. I mean, it's up his ass, but it's in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, actually, speaking of NDP, before I forget, remember you said earlier, $20 is $20. NDP's trying to vote that $20 is the new minimum wage.
Christ's sakes, the conservatives said everybody gets $1 an hour raise. Fuck sakes, bullshit.
Yeah, but $1 an hour, we're jumping to $20 an hour as minimum wage.
Do these people not understand how inflation works?
No, obviously not. They're NDP. If they understood how inflation worked, or fiscal policy, monetary policy, macroeconomics in general, they wouldn't be in the orange fucking party. They would be in a real party.
But you just saying, Andrew, you could go work at Tim Hortons for an hour or let someone take a dump on you. You'd make the same amount of money.
Why would I let someone take a dump on me? That's a terrible thing.
Yeah, but that still sounds better than working at Tim Hortons for an hour.
Significantly better than working at Tim Hortons for an hour.
Yeah.
I've worked
at
$20.
I
would pick a whole lot of other things over working at Tim Hortons.
Especially that one Tim Hortons where that lady had shit thrown at her anyway. So like now you're doing
it's basically the same thing.
I said milk and sugar, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, that's terrifying. I mean, $20 is $20, but like, I don't know. I feel like the socialists have their heart in the right place, but their brains are up their ass. And the conservatives have their brains in the right place, but their heart is up their ass. And like, again, I just want to grill, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to be left alone to grill with my friends. Like
I will contribute all of the money to charities that I believe in. Yep. And I still do, even though I'm taxed out of the ass.
Oh no, I don't. I expressly don't, because I used to, and then I was like, well, wait, but like the government takes all of my money. Well, the government takes slightly more than 50% of my money, depending on how you do the math. The government takes a little bit more than half of my income, and I don't get a say in how they spend it. So why am I giving any money to anyone else? Because no one is giving money to me.
Well,
because the things that I generally believe in don't get funded by other things, so I give them money. But again, that's by choice, because freedom is beautiful.
I mean, freedom is good.
Forcing people to do the right thing is not doing the right thing.
But freedom isn't free. It costs $1.05.
I mean, yes, but also
freedom will cost you 50%.
Well. But yeah,
I'm still no further
people to do the right thing is not doing the right thing.
I would like hot takes. Maybe we go clockwise and everybody gets like 10 seconds to sell me on this. Why should I vote conservative is the first question. And maybe we'll do a second round of clockwise. If I'm going to vote strategically, is there like a way that you would vote strategically in your situation for a specific party? And I'll go with Brian, who I'm putting immediately on the spot with no prep time.
Well, I mean, obviously, the only thing I could really sell you on is their gun policy. But with his recent flip-flop, it's not as strong as I feel like as it was. But going on the points I tried to make earlier in regards to at least having a little bit of breathing time and maybe being able to rethink a strategy for 4 years down the road, or even the repeal of the legislation and possibly having a simplified classification. You know, those kind of things to me are very appealing, and I'd like to see where it would go down. I'd like to see how it would pan out if he got in power, basically, in regards to the Firearm Act.
So, sorry to summarize. Try to pick the clean end up, or the clean end of the poop up, and the clean end is O'Toole.
Yes, and it is unfortunate that that's where we are, but like realistically, that's where we are. And I mean, yeah, that's where we are, and it's really our best option. There's no other option here that I don't see, because all the other parties are just going to jump on this subject, and they're not going to be in the favor that we wanted to. And really, obviously the PPC, but the Conservatives are the only party that can actually win and make a difference for us now.
Okay, no, that's good. I'll give you time to prep on the follow-up one, because I would like to hear your thoughts on voting strategically, but I will put Alan in a hot seat where he obligated to explain to me who I should vote for. What's his 10-second take?
I think if you are vote CPC, right? Vote Conservative to oust Trudeau. That buys us time to put together a better strategy for next election. The next election, and then I would suggest that the next step is we all individually get involved in our riding associations and drive policy change.
Okay, not to detract terribly from that, but I feel like, because you mentioned it, bears repeating. I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I will mention it again. The Conservative Party does not want me involved in their riding association, because I ask every 6 months to be involved and they don't get back to me. I talked to the PPC guy and he was like, yeah, when can you start?
So that would be where
Sadly,
I didn't say get involved in the Conservative Riding Association.
No, I'm saying because
I don't think that the Conservatives are necessarily interested in what the everyman has to say, but what's our choice? I mean,
sadly, my experience was the same as Andrew's with trying to get involved with the Conservative Riding Association. One, it took months to even get into contact with the right person, and then it was all just like, can you make it to this fundraising seminar? And it's like, I want to be a little bit more involved than just like tossing you some shekels. Like, I have a business, I can do that. Like, how do I get involved in like telling you what the people that live in this riding actually want? But nobody gave a shit.
Okay, Pierre, what's your hot take?
Vote Liberal. No, I'm just fucking with you.
Are you being kidnapped? This is your signal for help?
That is a hot take.
All right.
No, it's the crash the plane. Yeah, at the same speed that we're currently crashing the plane. Not faster, not slower. The same speed.
All right. I was really worried that Pierre had like a stroke or something, so that's good.
No.
But it was funny. There was that just pause of just dead silence for like 4 seconds.
Everybody's face was just kind of like, what? You've got two options, in my opinion. You've got Conservative, whether you want to agree with it or not, right? Like, we're standing where every other party was, how many years ago, saying anybody but Harper. Yes, we're at that point. Anybody but Trudeau. But do your own research. Conservative, I use that term loosely, or PCC,
People's Party.
PPC, People's Party of Canada. Those are the only two options in my book. Or Liberal, whichever one you want.
Okay. Jeff?
Well, my heart is telling me to vote PPC, but my brain is telling me we have to vote conservative to get rid of Trudeau. As everybody has said, he's the cleanest piece of poop. So that for me, as much as I would have to hold my nose to do it, considering his flip-flop on the whole gun thing. My big concern, and I think I may be going into the second question, but my big concern is if too many people go PPC, we're going to split enough of the vote that Trudeau's going to walk in the middle.
I definitely want to come back to the vote splitting thing because I have. Well, I don't know if they're really questions, but I definitely want to come back to the vote splitting thing. It bears some discussion. Mr. New Brunswick. That is your official title now, since you did the pageant, right?
Yeah, no, I've got a sash and everything. I basically am echoing the same as everybody else. Like and I was almost going to say exactly the same thing as Jeff just did. Like my heart wants to vote Bernier because that's the policy that aligns best with me. But I fear that if I do so, that I'm going to end up with Trudeau, especially in my riding where it's a little bit closer. If I was in a riding that was a very strong conservative riding, then I would maybe vote PPC just as that protest vote and to give them a little bit of the nod to be like, hey, I see you guys and I like what you're doing and I want to support it and I want you to keep going and grow, because I would love to be able to have them be a viable option. I just don't think that they're there right now. That's the problem.
Okay.
And I don't like it. I really don't like it. I don't like voting for the clean end of the poop. I want to vote for somebody that I actually want to vote for.
You want to vote for the paper towel to pick up the poop.
Yeah.
Is there a way to vote for not the poop at all? That's really the...
Well, and that's the crux of it all. And I think there is, but much like we were having conversations earlier today, there is, but that means that we're going to need to vote for the PPC and then live with the consequences. And if it guts the Conservative Party, then that sends a message to them that they need to get their act together, but at what cost?
Well, I mean, it is all unfortunately about cost, I think, and that's sort of the thing that I'm trying to puzzle through.
Yeah, the cost is shooting sports and everything that we've come to love in the community and all the events we get to do and matches we get to do, all that's going to be gone.
But for me, I think it's more than just, and I mean, don't get me wrong, the gun thing is very important, but I think it's more of, how do I put this better? So I like even though he said he's kind of going to keep it, but he's going to give people choice, and I don't want to detract from what this thing is about, but just Trudeau and his division, and for me, this whole vaccine passport thing has really got me pissed right off, because now I've got to divulge in Trudeau's world, I've now got to divulge my information between me and my doctor to get on a plane, to go watch a Blue Jays game, to go watch a concert, to go into a movie theater and watch a movie. Like, come on, really?
So the crazy thing about all of that is that if you were to go to your wife's doctor, assuming you have a wife, or
could be a husband or other non-binary
partner or whoever you want to, not to assume, and you were to ask their doctor what their vaccination status is, they'd tell you to go pound sand.
Exactly.
But now if you want to know, you just take them out to a restaurant.
Yep.
And the 18-year-old that sits you at a table can ask those questions, right? Or the 16-year-old.
Yeah, but that 18-year-old or whatever that is serving you inside the restaurant doesn't need to be vaccinated.
Well, that might be an Ontario specific thing.
Also not required to disclose their status.
That might be Ontario specific. I'm really impressed that you guys have managed to get like 90 minutes into this thing, and we're only just talking about the vax passports. now, because I mean the gun thing is near and dear to me,
Well,
but
I've been
also
biting my
the
tongue
But
for
it's
a while,
provincial
trust
versus
me.
federal, right?
Yeah.
well, it is and it isn't, because the various parties and the various candidates have said that they will do different things to the provinces because the provinces get money from the Fed for health care. And the Liberals have said if you implement the Vax Passport that Justin and the Liberals want, you get $1 billion. And the Conservatives have said that you should definitely do this because Aaron O'Toole is your guy and he's definitely playing 4D chess, bro. Just trust us this time, bro. Gold fringe on the flags, bro.
Yeah, just 2 more weeks.
And
Just 2 more
he's
weeks.
said something en français, but it sounded a lot like vaccine passports in Quebec. And no one cares what the
Yeah.
Greens said. And Bernier told them to go and
Green
pound
said
sand in
anything?
both official languages.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The vaccine passport thing is a big deal, but I also like property rights. I think to me are more important, but not by like they're not like we're not football
gonna
fields away from
be-
another here. It's like property rights and then like healthcare and personal choice and right to
but that's the
life and all of the
thing,
other
like,
things are they're all very
It's going to
closely
be
stacked. Right?
really, really, really hard for them to forcibly inject you with an experimental serum if you're armed. Not that I'm advocating violence to people. I'm just saying that it becomes increasingly more difficult for them to stick a needle
An
in your
armed
arm.
polity is unarmed polity. An armed society is definitely the most polite
The
society.
10%
How many of those
beer kicked in,
10.2%
yeah.
did you get?
10.2%.
Oh, buddy,
That
you gotta
0.2.
have one of these beers.
It's
They
the
are
0.2.
magically delicious.
It's that 0.2 that just kicked in right there.
0.2 really does it for you.
Six is your cutoff from now on, eh?
Yeah. Wow. Aside from my inability to speak either official language, let's do the other thing. So if you were going to vote strategically, what's your? Because I don't know. Maybe you guys know your ridings or don't know your ridings. I have a very strong conservative riding that is probably going to go conservative because it always goes conservative. But maybe that's not the case for you. So if I lived in a very strong conservative riding and voted PPC, it doesn't change the outcome of the election. And I don't know, maybe that's more or less true for other people for on the panel or for listeners, but I'm curious what your take or what your thoughts are, either based on your riding or if you have like a threshold, like a cutoff for that. Like, well, if it's a leaning or if it's a toss up or if it's, I don't know, God forbid you lived in a riding that actually had like a strong PPC projection right now. I don't know that there's one of those, but like hypothetically, I don't know. I feel like I was kind of mean to put Brian on the spot right away last time. So maybe we'll go anti-clockwise and make Gavin go first.
I mean, Biden is currently a liberal candidate. So it's pretty 50-50. So strategic vote for me is a conservative vote because that gets Trudeau out, which is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that too because I'm very close to Gavin, and it's here. It's a two-party race. It's either liberal or conservative. So if you're on the fence about the PPC or Conservative Party of Canada, but you hate Trudeau, there's one clear option, and if you're here.
I wouldn't go so far as to say I hate Trudeau, but I would definitely pay money to watch Idris Elba rail his wife.
That's completely unrelated, though.
Whether you like the guy or not, you could just be into that. Just to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, okay, good point.
Yeah, and I mean now that she's not getting charity money, so she needs a job. So
Hey man,
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans unbanned pornography.
yeah.
So $5 to get a nude, $20 to not get one. Make sure to subscribe.
Yeah.
$20 is $20.
Or another strategic vote, Andrew, would be to vote for the Liberal Party because maybe you're in the best shape of your life and maybe you want this all come
Bring
to
it
a head,
on.
right?
I believe that was the hot take there, not the
That
strategic one, but yeah.
might be the hottest take of the show.
Yeah.
So it
If
all
you're in a
depends where your
toss-up
mind is.
riding, vote liberal and get on the acceleration plan.
Yeah. Just make sure you're doing those push-ups still.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a pull-up soon again. It's been a decade. I'm so close.
What the fuck is a pull-up?
I got out of
It's,
the
it's a
age
diaper
3.
that you'd put on babies when they go swimming.
I'll send you a video of Idris doing one with Sophie.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Oh.
All right, Jeff, what's your spicy take? And can it top that?
I'm never going to top that, but I'm in, I guess, what I would consider a fairly strong conservative riding. However, our conservative candidate decided not to run again this year. So it's a new conservative face, and I haven't really heard much about him. I haven't seen a flyer. I haven't heard much on the radio or the local TV. So I don't know how strong of a conservative. I don't know if he's riding on the coattails of hoping that it's a strong conservative riding, and they're just going to vote for me anyways. And that's why when I talked about my vote, that my heart was telling me to go with the PPC, but my between my ear thing, which sometimes doesn't work too well, but is telling me to go to the conservative to make sure that they get in and Trudeau gets the boot.
Okay. I can see that. Pierre, en français.
Vote libéral. No, liberals.
Again with the liberal. All right. That's
No.
At least he didn't say block. I
mean, if your writing is mostly conservative and has been for a long time, right? If you're unsure of that, you're just getting into politics, right? Do your research. If you've got a fairly strong conservative writing and you want to, right, vote People's Party and kind of give it a little jab at, and hopefully someone at the conservative, is looking at this being like, what were our votes last time compared to this time, and seeing that transition in votes and hoping that they smarten the fuck up a little bit, right? If you're in a fairly confident place that everybody's gonna run conservatives and there's no way a liberal or NDP is gonna get in, and you kind of just want to give that jab at the party, go that way. If not, then yeah, either make the plane crash now or vote conservative. That's my take on it.
okay. Alan. Carbon monoxide is bad. Moving on.
Carbon monoxide is bad. Karma's the devil. I live in a very strong blue riding. There is no, like you, Andrew, there's no chance that my incumbent is not going to win. Through the course of discussion this evening, I've decided that I'm likely to vote PPC in a nod to the fact that I don't really like our conservative policies and our conservative candidate, and maybe get them to smarten up a little bit. I also haven't had much success getting them to. I've actually gotten some good correspondence back, although they're generally some fairly canned messages. But I've gotten some correspondence back from my candidate or from my incumbent, and that's nice. But also votes against things that I would like them to vote for. So I'm thinking that the PPC is going to be my nod to my local candidate that says, hey, you're not as solid as you think you are. Hopefully that's the outcome. And it's time to get on the right track.
I envy you guys that live in a solid conservative riding, because that would make my choice so much easier.
Bro, there's a reason why I moved to where I moved, because I could have stayed in Toronto after I was done school and worked there, but have you been to Toronto?
Yeah, it's terrible.
From what I heard, there's an empty lot around the corner from Andrews.
There is. You can't afford it. I can't afford. No one can afford. They want way too much money for it.
If you hadn't just moved, Gavin, we could talk about a property near me that's for sale. But
but the drive to work, it's be too far.
Why do you have to go to work? You have
Well,
Zoom.
because I need to sign checks. It's the burden of being the owner.
Doc,
Or
you
you-
sign.
Or you just take them home and mail them from here. But whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
You
I'm
wanna
happy
trust
where I
Canada
am,
Post?
but
That's aside
No.
from Gavin's business dilemma. I mean, I can understand that, but there is a reason why I don't live in the GTA, and it's because no one will pay me a six-figure salary to do what I do and live in the GTA.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, that's the long and short of it is I've interviewed with companies and I'm like, yeah, I'll work here. It'll cost you $1 million a year. Oh yeah, you're not going to pay that? Then I'm not fucking working in Toronto. Like, good luck.
eh.
Yeah.
Just like,
You-
I
you-
can't be.
You couldn't pay me enough, generally.
No, you could. My figure, unlike most things, is not $20. In this case, it's $1 million. I will work in Toronto for $1 million a year before taxes.
They could pay him enough. They just won't. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is like, because yeah, I've interviewed with places in the GTA, and like no one will come close to the number that I want because the hassle of living in that hellscape.
Yeah. No thanks.
That's why it's nice to be
Uh,
your own boss, because then you can afford it. But
Well,
still, Toronto.
someday, make sure you buy a T-shirt
Fortune-
from Ragnarok Tactical.
Yeah.
They're on their way.
No, I know. Sorry, we mentioned that when you were having internet issues, Pierre. I just like saying, like,
Yeah.
someday maybe if I don't have to work for somebody else and I don't have to negotiate salaries and stuff. But in the meantime, the number to work in GTA is $1 million bucks
But that's so
because I'm
much
going to lose
cheaper.
half of it right off the bat. So
$1 million.
I mean,
$1 million.
that is a lot cheaper than what they're paying the CBC. Just saying.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have at least enough personality to cover some of what the CBC does. We haven't got to Brian though. Brian, what's your spicy take?
My spicy take. I already gave you guys spicy takes.
Oh, you
We're
don't
always
have
looking
another
for
like
more.
vote splitting spicy take?
No, I don't.
Okay, fair enough. I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do. I think it might be protest vote and go PPC because their policy is the least obnoxious policy to my mentality, but I'm still not happy about it because like Bernier is still a politician and I trust him as far as I can throw him, but in French.
Which
Can
is
you throw less far in French or further?
Why I'm not sure how the conversion works. It's like metric to
No,
imperial.
But you also
Same
have to take you also
distance.
have to take the transfer payment into consideration, right?
No, it's the same distance, but there's an accent. It's
aigu.
I don't know whether it's I don't know
Triple
if it's the one going to the left, the right, the little hat. Or the
No,
circumflex.
Bernier, I'm sure is the one going to the right, but
Wow.
Uh-uh.
At least
not as far
marginally.
right as I would like, which
Yeah.
is really I still really would like if we had better representation at the federal level. Like there are provinces that
representation at the
have.
federal level. Because do we actually need a federal government in general?
Yes.
Do we though?
Yes.
Yes.
For
The
one
job of the
purpose.
federal government in its entirety, and you're all more than welcome to give your spicy take, but the entire job of the federal government is to enforce domestic sovereignty.
Right.
Anything beyond that is excessive.
But could that not be administered at the provincial level?
No.
Because
But
it's all
yes,
they're
but
all
then-
provincial crossings.
Then the states become state with a big S versus a little s.
Right.
Because then you
Or
can
do we need federal parties?
That's what
then?
I'm saying. Like, do we need
No.
do we need federal representation? We need
No.
you know, even under still of the governor general or prime minister or whatever, but like, do we need a federal party at all?
If the provinces just had a coalition government that decided the things federally, and there was a handful of employees that were federal employees that
Yeah.
handled all of the
I'd
infrastructure
be
type stuff.
okay with that, but I don't want to LARP about how to change the government until I'm actually in charge of the government and it has a meaningful outcome.
Well, yeah, you don't want to give out your plan beforehand, so someone else might
No,
steal
it's like it's not even that I wouldn't want to give out the plan. I'm happy to go through the thought exercise. I just don't know that this is the time or place. And if we're going to go through the thought exercise, I'd be much more interested in putting the energy into what can we do to fix the system to get a party that will represent my interests and the interests of people like me versus the current system that literally wants to take my property. Like, we're at the point where the government literally is trying to take away my stuff.
Yeah,
We'll
in
call
more
it the,
places than one. Yeah.
we'll call it the APC, Andrew's Party of Canada.
No, I mean, like, Andrew for dictator. I'm all for that. If I get put in charge, I'll figure out how to run it. That's fine. But
Well, but if you did go with APC, you could have APCs with APC written on the side of it.
I mean,
That sounds okay.
After the show's over, I need to make a call to General Dynamics down in London Way and see if they can help me out.
No,
I'm not the Kingdom of Sod, but maybe they'll still send me some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still not convinced that I'm any closer to figuring out what to do, but I do like the idea of, if you are in a conservative riding, you are a gun owner, if it does not put undue political strain, because I would hate for somebody. I think, Brian, you mentioned it. I would really love to figure out how to get rid of Trudeau. I would really love to in a political sense, within the confines of our law and in due course, remove Trudeau from power. Yeah. I would love to be able to figure out how to do that legally and with due process.
I mean, to me, that would be, I mean, all the points we've all made are all great. But I mean, like, if you want to focus on one clear thing, that's the thing to focus
on. I mean,
just get this guy. This guy has screwed our country. Like, I haven't.
Oh yeah, no, I have no disagreement with that. Our federal budget is $650 billion, and we have a $350 billion deficit. Like, we're fucked.
And I don't know if it's just because I'm like paying more attention to things, or I'm just overplaying things in my mind. But I really have never seen the country as divided as it has, and I feel like we're going backwards.
Of course we are.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I mean, when I was a kid in the 90s and early thousands and stuff, it really did feel like, people were kind of progressing to multiculturalism, and everybody was kind of like accepting of each other. And it just really feels like it's going in the opposite direction, where it doesn't make sense how it's going in the opposite direction. We should be even further along as we were then.
If you don't fit my label, you're wrong. That's where we've gotten to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I would very much love to see Trudeau violently ejected. Not that I'm advocating for it.
Metaphorically.
Not that I'm advocating for it. I would just enjoy watching it. However, that being
said, like what I would enjoy watching with Sophie.
Yeah. I think it will be far more satisfying seeing the people actually rise up and vote him out, because I know that will hurt his feelings and he'll cry about it more than if he was physically removed, because all it takes is one big tough person to physically remove him. A bunch of people voting him out takes a lot of people that dislike him. And he's the kind of jackass that needs that validation from multiple people. So to me, that would be more satisfying, because like seeing him cry and everything to the media that people are yelling and screaming and booing him, is very, very satisfying. And I think him being voted out is going to be incredibly satisfying, because it's going to show that like he did not speak for the people, and that the people did not like him.
I'll be walking with a bit of a pep in my step for a while. And I won't be thinking about Aaron O'Toole's flip-flop and all that bullshit. I'm just going to be good riddance. Fuck, that was awful, wasn't it, guys? Holy shit. I can't believe we lived through that.
I mean, I understand that. I get that. I worry that it kicks the can down the road 4 years and doesn't actually solve my problems.
No, you're right.
I know. I know.
I'm asking you, what I'm asking you guys, though, is to just try and take a small victory, like just forget about
I get it. Just take the W,
and just take that W. And unfortunately, that's all we could really have and really relish out of it. But yes, that would be amazing. Like, think about that day. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, watching Trudeau get frog marched out of Parliament would probably make my decade. That's not.
Yeah, but watching him just like all sad-faced packing up his stuff and just
that's what I said. Well, that's what I meant.
And get the fuck out of here.
Take your socks and your hair cream, and don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Yeah.
And here's your
But-
$10,000 swing.
I
set.
guess my next question would be, do we think it's gonna go 4 years? I don't think anybody's gonna get a majority in this election. I honestly don't. I think it's gonna be a minority conservative. And
I
then, of
used to
course-
agree with you, Jeff, but I'm looking at these projections, and there is a better than strong possibility that there could be a conservative majority come out of this. Looking at the seat projections,
And
A week ago-
I wouldn't be opposed to that. I'm just not sure.
a week ago, I wouldn't have even thought it. 3 weeks ago, I didn't even think that it would be anything other than the liberal minority again. But looking at the projections, there is a better than strong possibility that we might see
And-
a conservative
And
majority out of this.
Much as I hate to say it, I think the flip flop on the gun thing is going to push him over the top.
I know,
And that
it
excites
just
me and scares me all at
infuriates
the
me.
same time.
It just absolutely infuriates me that that's the case. But I think we're gonna.
Well, it's-
I was working out the math at dinner with my wife about this, and I believe the projection is like, I'm not looking at the numbers, so you'll forgive me if they're wrong. It's like 140 something, 146 seats conservative projected plus or minus 40, and like 130 seats liberal plus or minus 50. Maybe it's a little less than 50, 46 maybe
47, I
is
think, 47.
47. Okay.
Yeah.
And so like I was trying to like work out what that means, because like 170 is a majority government, right? 170 is the post. So that means that the safe conservative ridings plus 25 gives them a conservative majority, or the safe liberal ridings plus almost 40, I think 36 maybe was the number, gives them a majority. 25 is a fuck of a lot closer than 36.
For sure.
We lost Alan, but I don't know. I don't know how much I trust the polls. I think the 338 Canada is the place where I get my information for this, because they're an aggregate that gets like seemingly I'm going to say the most reliable results, maybe not the most politically accurate results, but at least like their predictions have been good. The numbers are accurate, historically speaking.
With the data they have, those are the best numbers you can get.
I don't know. I'm still not sure. And I think because I live in such a strong conservative riding, I still think that my ass my ass might be up my brain. That's not quite right. My brain might be up my ass, but like I still think I might vote PPC just as like fuck you to O'Toole.
Yeah, give it one more chance. I understand where you're
It's funny,
coming from.
I'll echo
I don't
what-
think
what-
I still don't think it's just not the right time to put that vote now there. I understand
Yeah,
where you guys are
no,
coming
I hear what you're saying. The other option, and I've contemplated this before, is like, let's just vote NDP and crash this motherfucker.
Can you imagine Jagmeet Singh as our prime minister? Oh my!
Yeah, but he'd be in government for like 6 months. We'd run out of money and they'd call an election.
They wouldn't even have money left to call an election.
Yeah,
But that's what I mean. Like that, like he would be in government for such a short period of time. They would get nothing done. They would table a bunch of bills that would all die in committee, and they wouldn't have money to run another election. Like
But think about how many sick days you get. Paid.
all of the sick days,
At
all
least
of them.
another 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny that what Gavin said about the as much as we don't like it, him backflopping on the gun thing might just push him over the top. And there was an article today in the National Post, and the reporter basically said exactly the same thing. He said that it probably tactically was the smart thing for him to do to get him over the top.
Yeah, to win the election, it was.
well, the Liberals really have come out on a smear campaign. Like, I don't know if you guys notice everything and they're really focusing on the gun control.
Well,
Because
gun control's
Because
always
They've
a
got
wedge,
nothing
that's
else to
true.
run on. That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. That's the only chink in the armor. So they're fucking going after it.
Well,
Yeah,
but
if you would have
they're
asked
trying
me
to make
3
it.
weeks ago if the gun thing would have been anything, I would have said no. And I know it took a long time to bring it up. I figured the big wedge thing in this election was going to be the vaccine passports and everything, and they seem to have kind of just
they're all-
slid by the wayside. They're there, but
They're all on the same plan
not
with
a
that.
big-
They're all for it to
Yeah,
varying degrees.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that Trudeau tried to everyone was attacking him about why are you calling an election during a pandemic? And the only thing that he had to sort of distance himself from that was O'Toole wants to make machine guns a thing again.
Yep.
So
Do you want your children running around with machine guns?
Yes.
Yes.
and
Children are small. Give them crew served weapons. It teaches teamwork. Let them work together.
yeah,
A Ruger 1022 with the 25 round mag. Why not?
No, I mean actual machine guns. One of them carries the
Yeah.
tripod, the other one carries the rifle, or like the firearm.
yeah. And
It's
then
not
And
really
then
a
the
rifle,
one with the
it's-
ammo bin. Why not?
I guess it's still technically a rifle because it's rifle. At what point does it stop becoming a rifle and start becoming a machine gun? At that point, that's the point where I want one.
I
Yes.
guess if you don't rifle the barrel, it's not a rifle.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, is a machine gun still a rifle? Because I was going to call it a gun, but that's not really true because a gun is like a towed implement, like a howitzer. But anyway, aside from the firearms autism,
I
Yeah.
was wondering how far you were going to go into that. Let's see how far he goes with this.
oh, quite a ways. Quite a ways. You know
way,
what?
way more in depth than pants.
An M777 howitzer has a range of like 6,000 meters, something like this. So some artillery person is going to come on and correct me because I'm misquoting the number intentionally because it's funny for me that way.
So what you're saying is that the effective distance is greater than that of thoughts and prayers.
Well, the effective distance of any firearm is greater than thoughts and prayers. But book club this month. We're going to do book club at the end of the month. We're doing Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins. I think it'll be a fun little change from what we've seen recently.
Is that what Justin Trudeau is? He's an economic hitman because he
No,
kills the economy. Oh,
I mean, yes, but also no.
No, good book though. I enjoyed it.
I haven't started it yet. That's my plan for tomorrow. I had a big order to fulfill last week, so I got a little sidetracked. But yeah, hoping to get it read up. Seems good from what I've heard from.
No,
everybody, so.
I enjoyed it. It's an easy read. I like it. And oddly enough, on the plane today, I started watching a movie that was based on an Andy McNabb book. So
Oh, yeah? Which
Sweet.
Yes.
Red Notice or whatever is the book. The Black Swan Rise of the Black Swan or whatever is based on that book. On
Oh,
the
yeah,
Netflix.
I saw the movie, a little far-fetched or whatever, but not too shabby of a movie.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, yeah, I
Good way
enjoyed
to
it.
kill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it made my flight go. So
Right on. No listener feedback this week. I think we covered everything last week. If you want to get in touch with the show, send us hate mail, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Maybe tell me why me voting PPC is a bad idea, or tell me why voting Conservative is a good idea, or tell me that I really should just try to crash this mother and we'll just all vote NDP.
yeah, send your spicy takes on how we should vote. Yeah.
I am genuinely curious because I'm still like we're 2 weeks out from this and I'm still not sure what to do. And I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter what I do and it doesn't matter what we say on the podcast. It doesn't matter what the listeners do because really, the government's going to government.
how about I arm wrestle you for it, and then if I win, I can tell you how you have to vote.
All right, but I get to use lube.
You got to do that Stallone thing though, and over the top where he
Yeah.
takes the hat and turns it around.
Hey, oh, take it.
Let's go around the room. Brian, do you have anything you want to plug? Any shout outs, anything like that?
No, just thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're always welcome, bro. And I'm glad you're trying to sell me on the conservative thing because like you've done a way better job than O'Toole has.
Well, I'm trying.
Pierre, what do you got?
You can find me Instagram, Facebook, and a bunch of other shit my wife set up. Off the wall customizing for all of them. custom shirts and stuff like that. You can find one of these spicy ones on there if you're interested. Send
This
an
is an
email,
audio
message.
show, so if you're not watching YouTube, Pierre's
Yes.
shirt is a very creative way of flipping the bird to a certain shiny pony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. And I love it. I can't wait to go do groceries in it. We just made it the other night. Haven't gone out with it yet. But yeah, if you need anything, yeah, find me there. Send an email. It'll probably be my wife replying, but whatever she says goes. So we're good.
Perfect. Jeff, do you have any kind of social media, anything you want to plug or shout outs for anybody?
No, just a shout out to you guys for having me here. It's my first time here. I really enjoyed it, and it's been a good back and forth banter. And yeah, it's great.
Well,
Yeah,
you're welcome
Jeff-
back anytime.
Jeff
Where
joined
can
us
people
from
normally
The
find you?
other, yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Where can people normally find you?
They can normally find me on the Canadian Prepper podcast, the other CPP, Sunday nights at the same time, 9 o'clock. So I guess if anybody wants to reach out to me, you can just send it to info@prepperpodcast.ca and they'll find me.
Yeah. So yeah, send your hate
Perfect.
mail to Jeff there. Yeah, not here.
That's right. Send your hate mail to Eric to pass it on to Jeff there. And
Yeah.
remember, if you're talking to Eric, this is the original CPP. He's the imitator.
Okay. I will see him in a couple of days. I'll make sure he's reminded of that.
Oh, I'm sure he remembers. I don't let
Yeah.
it go long without it having been
No,
pointed out. Gavin,
when I saw him in person, I reminded him. It's a lot taller than I thought he was in real life. Yeah, you can find me apparently in New Brunswick for the next couple of days, but other than that, on the internet, Instagram, Urbix GTA, all one word.
well, make sure to give all of my love to all of the people in Gagetown. I'm not visiting them in the summer, but I'm okay with that.
Same.
If you want to get in touch with me, you want to reach out to the show, you have questions or hate mail, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. And if I can help you out with your tactical accessories, first aid supplies, or firearms training, you should go check out RagnarokTactical.ca. Use the discount code Patriot at checkout. Save yourself some money. Literally giving you a discount. Take money out of my son's college tuition. So if you want to get that discount on a plate carrier rather than letting me put my son through school, you can do that.
All right, good. Sign me up.
I feel like we've signed you up already, but I almost forgot. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaca. We couldn't get Rod on the show. He thought we were voting for who was the best person in BC, not who was the Prime Minister of Canada. There was a small misunderstanding with his PR people. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rod. You're still number one
He
in BC in my
recused
books.
himself from that one because he didn't want to,
He didn't want to
Taint
go in
the
front of the
results,
ethics
yeah.
commission.
yeah.
For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you're the true North, strong and free, and you should vote.
Oh,
Or
conservative.
not. Or not.
Oh, conservative.
Or not.